This is Screendivers. On this episode, we are covering 1992's classic Braindead, aka Dead Alive. You're more likely to know it by that name, actually. How are you guys? How are you, Steve?
I'm great, mate.
How are you, Ricky?
I'm good. How are you?
And on this week's episode, we have a very special guest. One of my fearless companions from the Horror Weekly, Friends of Horror Weekly group, introducing Miss Michelle Stang.
Yay! Yay!
How are you, Michelle?
I'm good.
So we invited Michelle on this show. The reason why is because she's apparently a very avid fan of Dead Alive.
Yes.
And Michelle, I was going to ask you, why did you pick this movie?
Well, I didn't pick this. You contacted me and were like, hey, you want to be on the podcast? Because let me preface this by saying he recommended the movie The Perfect Host to me. Oh, and God. I hated it. And there was a discussion in the Friends of Horror Weekly group about people whose movie opinions you trust and who you don't. And so I said that I was never going to listen to another one of Umba's recommendations because I hated this movie. And so he's like, I'm going to make it up to you. And I was like, there's no way like you'll ever be able to do it. And he was very positive. So this was like his way of making it up to me that, and
well, you're not here just for that. There's a reason why we picked you, and it's because I shared many tales about how opinionated and full on you can be on the group, which is a good thing. People like you and people fear you. So that's why you're here today. But hey, you can get respect two ways, right? This is one way to get it.
Well, so I try to do it through love, not fear.
Right. But in some instances, you got to do what you got to do. So when I mentioned to you that we were doing Dead Alive, and I keep saying AKA Braindead, we are going to talk about how important this is. Michelle, you're based in the US. Myself, Steve, and Ricky mainly, we're based in the UK, but Ricky now lives in Australia. In most of the rest of the world, the movie is known as Braindead. However, let's refer to it for the sake of this episode as Dead Alive or Braindead, whatever. You guys know now. Okay. With this out of the way, whoever's listening to this knows what we're talking about. And most people likely hunted for this episode because they saw us on social media or whatever. You know exactly what we're talking about. And I don't think it's much of a factoid that this movie had a name change. I think it's common knowledge. If anything, it's a testament to how much of a cult status this film has reached, because even something like a name change, which is a drastic thing to do for any production to go through, it will kind of convolute and it will dilute the level of distribution you can have on anything if you change the name. Now, normally the job of doing the overview for whatever movie we are covering goes to Ricky. But on today's episode, I am going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to let you run with the answer. You ready?
Okay, sure.
Hey, Michelle, what's this movie about?
What's this movie about? This is about a poor boy who is way too devoted to his mother. They have a very, very toxic, codependent relationship. And he's trying to be this good son. But then he meets this girl whose grandmother has done this tarot reading saying that she's going to meet the love of her life and it's going to be a romance that lasts forever. So she runs into Lionel and then they have a meeting to go to the zoo together. And crazy mom somehow finds out about it and is sneaking around while they're at the zoo. And she slips and falls against the cage where the rat monkey is, and he bites her. And, that bite then becomes infected and she deteriorates, and then she starts infecting other people, and then those people infect other people, and then it just, Lionel tries to keep everything under control until a point where he no longer can, and then chaos ensues.
Excellent. This is what the movie is about. Thank you very much for that, Michelle.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
That's one less job for me this week, yes.
no, no, not at all. You still got your work cut out for you. Michelle, that was a great overview. Thank you very much. In fact, excellent.
No.
I keep doing this through the episode.
Right. While Umba brings on his morning DJ routine, can I ask, anybody can go first, what is your history with this film? Go for it, Steve.
So, my first actual look at Braindead, because of the UK market, I saw a poster. And the poster just had a backlit version of Lionel and Paquita through a door with the
Love Monster?
the lawnmower.
Oh, the lawnmower.
So they're in the door frame kind of thing?
And
it's
the tagline was a story about a man, a woman, and a love of power tools. That was the tagline. And it got me interested. And I mean, that's 1992 in the UK. And I was a big horror buff at the time. And I went to see it in probably the shittiest cinema, which in Swansea, where I'm from. And I loved every single minute of
So you
it.
went to the theater to watch. This is a VHS video
that's
store job.
amazing.
And
I
that's
went to
amazing
cinema.
indeed.
Yeah. And
Holy
it-
shit.
just off the back of one single poster. Because this is a time where, you'd have these huge giant posters popped around city centres on dilapidated buildings and that kind of stuff. And it was just, I hadn't even seen a trailer. It just ended up being that kind of situation. And I saw the original 104-minute cut.
Nice one.
So,
Yeah, actually, surprisingly enough, it's funny you say that. Because out of the this movie was banned in several countries, or at least it got limited releases or rated releases that forced whichever party was distributing the movie to cut it down. And surprisingly enough, UK censorship was very much for the full cut, which is unusual.
It's very unusual because they almost made it a 15-rated movie because it was so much over the top.
Yeah, I think it's because ultimately, a governing body like this will learn their lesson because it's business. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
And when it came down to Evil Dead 2, the UK's approach to that movie was really full on.
Yeah.
Then they saw, then the home video market made that movie. That movie was extremely profitable. So ultimately, I think, they learned their lesson. I think Evil Dead is a good example for the 80s and the 90s. The first and second movie, the way they were handled in the UK particularly, because that movie was banned here for a while. So, and it was very difficult. Ricky, do you remember? What was your experience, Ricky, with this movie?
Well,
you asked the question.
I'm a little bit younger than you guys. So when it was 92, I was 8. But I remember being a teenager, and this is well after the release, and probably it was on VHS for a good 5 years, because I remember being in secondary school, in high school, and some people talking about bad taste. And they would describe scenes out of Bad Taste that made me go, that can't be in a film. No way.
The
There's
bazooka
no
and
way.
the sheep.
No,
You remember
no.
in school, the bazooka and the sheep was a big one.
Also things like the scene where the cook's preparing the pot, and he looks at the guy and goes, you're next. And then it turns out it is Peter Jackson, the alien behind him, but he then picks up a knife and he's like, oh, and then cuts his own throat, and then is walking off with blood splattering everywhere. So I would hear these scenes and go, no, there can't be films like that, can there? That sounds like... And, the way people would describe those scenes would make you go, no, I can't imagine that on a screen. And so I once was walking into a video store, CD video. It might have been Virgin, it might have been HMV at the time. I can't remember where it was. And there,
so not a rental place, like an actual shop that sold.
Yeah. And there on a stack was Bad Taste with Braindead on the same VHS for like £6 or £7 at the time, and I was like, "Yep, I'm getting that." So I had no idea about Braindead. I bought that videotape because of Bad Taste, and when
wait a second, are you saying that you basically watched these two for the first time back to back?
Yep.
Your head must have exploded.
Yes, it did. It did. I still to this day, I have a lot of films like The Fly is the reason why I'm into gore horror or body morphic horror. This is definitely probably why I really got into trauma films.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. Michelle, tell us all about your first experience with this movie.
I'm similar to Ricky that I got Bad Taste and Dead Alive at the same time. I'm thinking that because I was trying to think of how I saw it, and I believe I was in high school, and I believe that the Independent Film Channel was showing them when The Frighteners was coming out. I think this was kind of their way of being like, this is Peter Jackson. And, my dad actually was the one that discovered it first. And of course, like he immediately has to, my sister and I we have to watch it and stuff like that. And it was
But did you watch it with your dad or did you watch it with your sister the first time?
Well, my sister and my dad and my sister. My sister was in high school too. And but my dad was the one that was like, you guys have to see these, you have to see these movies. And it was really like, yeah, I mean, I've still never seen anything like those two movies. And, 30 years later. But yeah, I saw them both. I saw them both pretty much at the same time.
That's top parenting from your dad. What's your dad's name?
My dad's name is Ed.
Shout out, Edward. Well done, Eddie.
Yeah.
You raised him right.
Yeah.
Anyway, my history with this movie. I think with me it all started when I was about way too young probably to watch this. Not this, but Bad Taste. I think it was about 12, 11, and I went to the video store. I begged my mum she didn't know that I was going to rent this, but I walked into the video store and I remember the endless, hours spent there just being fascinated by the VHS covers. That's something that you guys can relate to, at least Gen X can relate to this. A la Randall in Clerks, just walking in and just it's Wonderland every time. And this is a time in which particularly, worldwide actually, there was a lot of illustrations on VHS covers. It was a job. There was a particular job to have VHS covers that were drawn to look like there was something that made movies look larger than life, which is what cinema is at the end of the day. But also this led to a lot of disappointment because you get a lot of videos based on those amazing VHS covers. And one of them, all of a sudden, it wasn't an illustration. It was an actual still from the movie. And that was Bad Taste. It was the alien holding the AK-47 or whatever weapon that is. And I rented that and I watched it and I enjoyed it so much. And then I lent it to friends and then it came back and it sat on a shelf for about a month and a half. And it racked up the equivalent of a $120 bill in early 1990 something. And I know this because my mom pointed out the fact that the video store was looking for it. So I held this and racked up a huge fine on it. And I did not want to return this tape. So that was my first experience with Peter Jackson. Then when I moved to Australia, the second experience was Meet the Feebles, which was one of my partner's favorite films at the time because it was subversive. And I was like, did you watch this? And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And I watched it and again, like, what the hell is this? And then Braindead, a.k.a. Dead Alive. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. We're going to talk about our impressions with this viewing. Before this viewing, it's been a while since I watched this movie. back in Australia, we used to share a house with Kiwis as well. Kiwi is an affectionate term for people that, from New Zealand, as most of you know already. And we shared a house with them, and so Australian culture and New Zealand culture are quite different, actually. Both of them are located in the antipodes, but there's almost a geographical location that is shared, but these are very large territories. So there's a wealth of differences when it comes down to customs and culture. It might as well be completely, far apart. Yet again, if you live in Australia, you're most likely to meet a lot of people from New Zealand because it's there's an affinity between the two countries. And we shared several houses with people from New Zealand, this is one of the movies that is very close to their heart. So we are going to talk about what this movie does. By modern standards, it's a very satirical movie. It pays homage to 1,000 things, but it also makes fun of a lot of things. It makes fun of our sacred institutions like the church, the monarchy, and Australia. We are going to talk about that later. So, at the beginning of this, I said that this movie was released under 2 different titles, but did you guys know what the Spanish title for this movie was?
I know what the translation was.
I'll tell you in Spanish. It's Tu madre se ha comido mi perro, which means your mother ate my dog.
Ate my dog. Your mother ate my dog.
That is the title in Spain for this movie. So, also one of the best one-liners of this movie as well. Yes. Seminal, for sure. Are we going to do a play-by-play, Ricky?
Yeah, let's get going. So, the first scene, a very surprising scene, and basically sets up what you are about to expect, which is you get a flashcard. It is some beautiful, beautiful New Zealand landscape, which also gets used by Peter Jackson a lot in his films.
Is that how your version of the movie opened?
Oh,
that's how you
haven't got the original cut.
No, what?
No, the original. There's 10,000 cuts of this movie.
Yeah. But
No,
it was banned in Finland. It was banned in Singapore. It was banned in South Korea. In Germany, you can't get.
It opens up and there's the rocks is is there a title card that says 1957 Skull Island?
There's something before that in the version myself and Steve watched.
Oh, okay, then go on then.
Oh, Michelle, you didn't.
No, I've got the same. I watched the same one where it starts on Skull Island.
So
the movie opens with Steve. What does the movie open with? And we both went, "What the fuck?"
So it basically starts off with the 1950s version of what was Queen Elizabeth.
She was a very young Queen Elizabeth on a horse.
Yep, on a horse.
Right.
Do I have to send this to you guys at some point so you can take a look?
I think I know that because I think that was on my original VHS version back in the day.
Yeah,
and because the rewatch I had didn't have that bit, but now you've said it, I'm like, I've seen that. Yeah.
Michelle, have you seen this? The opening.
No.
Well, there you go. So the subversion.
I'm sure I can find it.
There you go. But the subversive nature of this movie starts from the get-go, from the beginning. It's amazing.
It's also a great callback later on in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, here you go. I'm introducing this little picture from someone that lives in the colonies.
Yeah.
But now that you've said it, that was what was so amazing of my original I say original VHS, the VHS copy I had, because Bad Taste would end, the final frame of the credits would end, and then all of a sudden Queen Elizabeth would appear.
Yeah.
It's amazing, dude. It's amazing. And considering the fact that we're not really stopping your play-by-play, because we're going to keep talking about little factoids and things that are related to, wherever we are in the movie. The budget of this movie was about, I think what he got given was 4.5 million, and he ended up making it for 3. But the money came from, the funding was secured via the New Zealand Film Commission, which, if you're listening to this, again, and I think Ethan Hawke, James McAvoy, these are all actors that are doing God's work at the moment, man. They need to place emphasis and more importance on the arts. Doesn't matter what field it is, but okay, someone like Peter Jackson started really from the bottom. Okay, there wouldn't be New Line Cinema as we know it, and we're going to talk about that later, without people like him. So if you have a government, if you have academia, if you have large institutions funding the arts, we are going to keep getting a cultural heritage that it makes it worth being a member of this race, really, of the human race. If you cut the arts, we're done, especially now in the age of AI. It's essential, absolutely essential. But I wonder if they knew that he was going to open this movie with the Queen.
Probably not.
Probably not. And so that he could allocate most of the budget to special effects and stuff. And it's a testament to the fact that he didn't really give a shit how he was going to shoot it. Because the movie was shot in 16 mil, not in 35. Which in the 90s, it's insane to have something that then it went on to get like a global release. Global. This movie was famous all over the world. It didn't do well in the States when it came out. I think it racked up about 250,000. So it was a flop. Yet again, the home market got it to where it is now. And it got global distribution. And it's also the inception of I think it's Wingnut Films.
Wingnut.
Is that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically Peter Jackson. I think it was picked up by Trimark Pictures. I don't know if you remember, guys, Trimark as a company.
Yep.
It had like a jaguar or something in the logo. No? We were talking about logos last time. We were talking about TriStar, how it's a Pegasus. And it was a time in which now when you watch an A24 movie, there's like 10 production companies. There's like 10 logos at the beginning. But before you got one or two, that's it. Like
you've now sidelined me now. I felt
Why?
that because I just watched Late Night with the Devil.
Okay, you really watched it.
Yeah, it's
But
great.
what you just said, that was a movie that had how many production houses?
Yeah.
It's like 10.
That was
there's like
nonsensical
15 at the
and
beginning.
non-stop. Oh my god!
I know.
Anyway.
It's a thing, and it keeps happening. It's like sometimes you get 2 minutes added to the running time of a movie because it's an onslaught of production company after production company after production. It's like everyone's got 5% stake into it. It's what it is. I think that's a business now.
But sometimes you just need it to get the film made. That's it, full stop. And
just because it's
especially
a
on a low budget.
The medium has changed, and it's a risky endeavor. It really is.
Yeah.
So 1957, Skull Island. I'm going to get us back on track here, guys. And we see Stuart McAlden and his team smuggling something from Skull Island. Now, I'm not going to talk about any of the cultural context because that's the whole point of these sort of shock horror and how basically it's called
Are you talking about the portrayal of the natives?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. What I found amazing about it was not the portrayal of the natives, but the portrayal of the guys working for Stuart McAlden. McElden?
Is it the name of the guy who's getting the
now
work for Wellington Zoo? That guy.
Yeah, I love that bit. That bit was brilliant. The whole holding up the permit.
Who is that guy, man? I thought that was like another part that Peter Jackson played because it looks a little bit like him.
It's
A
not
little
him.
bit.
No.
He only does one part in this movie.
Michelle, who is it? Do you know who it is?
Who plays the
guy that
who
plays
plays
the-
the guy from the zoo?
Yeah.
No, I didn't write his name down because he had a smaller part.
Yeah, he
that
definitely has a
I didn't pay
small
attention. I didn't pay attention
Zingaya!
to his
Zingaya!
name. Yeah, yeah.
But he
By the way,
also
myself
got
and Steve kept saying Zendaya.
Zendaya. What a way to start off your movie career.
You know what? I'm going to start, like, you got kids as well. They get hurt all the time, right? If they get hurt from now on, just if they show you, oh, I'm going to boo-boo, just go, Zingaya.
and then you'll get cut into smaller parts.
Yeah, I was about to say that might kick me into pulling out my machete at some point and be like, just jumping on him. This whole scene I know was like it's in bad taste, but it's a
What did you say?
great way.
What did you say?
It's a great
bad
way.
taste.
It's in
Is
bad
that what you
taste.
said?
Yeah.
What did you say? What did you say, Ricky?
I said it in bad taste. Go on then, play your sound. There we go.
Okay, sorry.
Like and subscribe.
Absolutely.
Smash the bell.
Smash
Hey,
that
you
bell.
keep talking, and I won't interrupt you because I'm going to go get myself a whiskey.
Oh yeah, there we go. It was a great way to start off a film of this caliber, and me being such a loving as many B movies as I do love, this reminded me how much I love this movie, and I can't believe within the first 4 minutes of this movie I was like, yes, we're watching this film again. Oh my goodness, I'm pumped. How did you feel, Michelle?
Well, this scene this location was actually used again by Peter Jackson in Return of the King, when when Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas go down the Dimholt Pass to get the to wake up the dead.
Yeah.
I can't remember
it's the big scene,
but it's the same area.
Yeah, it's a big scene where they go to get the army of the dead for the final movie. Yeah, and it's a great location, but all of the little bits, like the pulling out of the gun, the pulling out of the permit, the trying to scramble onto the car, the editing is brilliant, and yet so bad all at the same time. This was definitely a great start to a movie.
There is one last shot of the natives or the indigenous people, and one of them tosses a spear towards the camera, and I couldn't stop thinking about something that happened a couple of years ago. Do you remember that Christian missionary that went to that island? Several times he was told not to fucking do that.
Yep.
And he... And I just thought, oh my God, that's the last thing that guy saw. Ricky, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Michelle?
yeah.
You know about this guy?
No.
Oh, Ricky,
it's off the coast of India.
Yeah.
And basically it's a protected island, which has had limited to no interaction with
any other
civilization in the
colonies,
Western
any
world,
other any other nation.
This dude went there once, didn't manage to get to shore, okay? And this is with the reluctance of the guys that he was seeking passage with. Like, they told him, we don't want to go there. So they didn't actually get to the shoreline. They left him like a couple of hundred meters away from the shoreline. The guy swam there, okay, or tried to swim there. It wasn't successful. They picked him up again. And again, they told him, don't go there. So he found another way to do it as soon as he got to the shore, armed with a Bible and a backpack with some shit to survive.
He's Australian as well.
Yeah, within a matter of minutes, he got killed.
Yep.
It was on the news.
No, he didn't just get killed, mate. He got burnt alive.
He got burnt alive.
It was horrendous.
They pissed on his corpse. That's what
Pretty much. Oh, thank you for bringing us back to this film. So,
What I was going to say...
Okay, Sumatra, what were you going to say?
So what I wanted to say was basically with this entire scene as well, it's Peter Jackson doing a love letter to King Kong at the same time, Skull Island.
Yes.
And which he went on to do a remake of. And
that's a success story, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
that's
great.
it. It's great.
If you can pay tribute like that, it's, he's apparently he's a lovely man as well, which is unusual for a director of that caliber. But I don't think he's never forgotten his humble beginnings. This movie in particular was the inception of a lot of things that went on to do greater things. Yeah. One of them is Wingnut, obviously, which is associated directly with Peter Jackson. And the other one is Weta Films, I think it's called.
Yeah,
it's a special effects company. And Ricky, you'll be pleased to know that they are not only successful in making special effects, they're a board game company. And they're also a miniature company. They do a bunch of stuff, and you can buy directly from them as well.
I also, at some point, they also did subscription boxes. I actually got one of a couple of their subscription boxes where I got a Thunderbirds t-shirt.
You bought from them?
Yeah, I got.
That's
a
why we're
subscription.
friends.
Yeah, so I got a Sunbirds T-shirt. I love that.
Are you dipping into the kids fund? Like, 'cause
Mate, that was before the kids, but
Sally's listening to this.
and everybody knows where a lot of my money goes. So,
I'm just going to.
If you don't know, Michelle, like over the past couple of weeks, I actually sent everybody I knew a text message saying like, a PlayStation 5 for £350. I have to buy into that, right? Like, I won't have time to play it, but I have to buy into it. And then a day later, there was a picture that goes, whoops, because I had the PlayStation 5 in my boot. So, yeah. But you know what? You know what? I earn the bucks. Sorry.
Yeah.
I earn the bucks.
Oh, my God. You're also sleeping on the couch tonight, buddy.
So,
every
Ricky,
night.
just going to ask you, what's your PSN ID?
It's
Yeah, give it up publicly, please. Give it up publicly, please.
.com.
All right, okay,
player.
so we're in Sumatra. People are stumbling in the back of this Jeep. Go on, because we're getting to the airport.
We've done the Zingaya, and the
Hey,
guy gets...
oh, something I didn't notice until this viewing. Allegedly, I don't know if it's stated in the film itself, but isn't what's it called? The Sumatran rat monkey, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that it's the result of this diseased rats raping the monkeys?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
stated
it
in the movie.
Plague-carrying rats.
And I
Plague-carrying
was thinking
rats.
about the logistics. I went shopping today. We live in London, and allegedly in London, what's the thing, Steve? You're never like further than 2 meters away from a rat, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there was a beautiful side, not beautiful, obviously, of a squashed rat on the ground, like.
Hey.
And I thought, and then I started thinking, what are the logistics of rats raping a monkey? How small is the monkey? How big are the rats? And it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Because that's what I'm thinking about. But yeah, do they go on a little stool, or how does it work? I don't understand. How small are these
I think
monkeys?
Sumatra monkeys are quite small, and rats are a lot bigger than you think.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. There you
Okay.
go. Shall we carry on with the film? Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to carry on with the film?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, I'm asking
All right.
the hard questions here, all right? These are
So he
important
gets
questions.
butchered, and then you get the title of the film, whether it's Braindead or Dead Alive. Boom, right in the middle, and then lots of shots of model airplanes, which I loved. Again, every time I saw a miniature, every time I saw a model, anything in this film, to an extent that Sally got sick of me because I'd be like, that tram, that's a miniature. That's got to be a miniature. Look how it moves. It's got to be a miniature. And she's like, yeah, okay, all right, shut up. Don't care. Just watch the film. First time I'm watching it, Ricky, it might be the 20 millionth time you're watching it, but shut up about the miniatures. And so, yeah. That was my view.
Actual people which worked on the miniatures for the.
You know what's funny? That Wellington, I don't know if parts of Wellington did, but when I was living in Australia, like Sydney and Melbourne, both cities still had trams, and they still do have trams. So I assume that if he did that, was because trams may have been phased out at some point, but it was possibly the main mean of transportation in the city of Wellington. So
okay, so there's a bit of a mix in this because there are historical tram lines which were removed in Wellington.
But there you go.
Research.
You see, you went out last night, but this time around you got notes.
I got
don't
notes.
ya?
Yeah.
All right.
So, and what Peter Jackson did was replace an area which had previously had a tram route in the 1950s. And yeah, I know. For a change, I did my research. There are 8 guys who worked on the miniatures as well.
What are their names?
Michael Eastwood, Glenn
Holy shit, dude, that was joking.
Anna Hill, Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson
There
was
you
all
go.
over it, yeah.
Jared Linton, Paul Noble Campbell, and Grant Wallace.
Round of applause for Steve.
Wow. Steve has the IMDb list open. Yeah.
I do. He does the research, so you won't have to. So, Michelle, I saw you glancing at some notes. Do you want to add to this?
Well, a couple of things. When they were on Skull Island, it was like did the zoo official know what he was getting into? What zoo officials carry a machine gun to like bring, to like go get some animal to bring back? Like, I'm like, what is going on? Does he know what Skull Island is, or like that he's got this machine gun?
There's also, when they're at the airport afterwards, when he goes to pick up their payment, there's one of the guys actually very jovially just trots back to his friends like, fuck, we're still alive, man. Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, and they didn't really want to take the rat monkey. The zoo official did. So once the zoo official is dead, I'm surprised that they still. I mean, I guess it was the money.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, why would they? I'd just be like, fuck this and let him go. Yeah, yes, but it seemed like the guy who was with the zoo official really wasn't about the money. Like, he was just like, I don't want anything to do with this thing. And then,
I like the fact that you went for like plausibility at the beginning. We just started. I have an entire theory about this movie that I didn't develop until this morning in the shower. I do like the. Well,
at least you weren't sitting on the toilet this time.
No, at least I wasn't crying. I'm just saying. I was thinking. That happens in the shower. I do a lot of thinking, and I considered something, and it led me to choose the song that I will end this episode with.
So you're not going to finish with Moon and Stars?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
All right.
But anyway,
is it going to be "Don't Forget About Me"?
No, but you're.
Closer.
Great.
Yeah, you're setting loose those hounds of friendship. You know me quite well. Hounds of friendship? What the fuck? Anyway, okay,
Hounds of Love. Go. Are you going to do Hounds of Love?
No.
Anyway, no.
Oh, we'll definitely get demonetized.
Come on.
When I was a child. Anyway.
Ricky?
Have we got to Wellington yet? We started talking.
We have
not.
Trams.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So we have got to Wellington.
Yes.
Yeah, we have.
We did. It's
Okay.
1957. We all know that because it was on the tombstone. Otherwise, you wouldn't have known that.
No, but
Right?
At the start as well, it says Skull
It's
Island.
the 50s. You can see the clothing and everything, yeah.
No, but at the start it said 1957 Skull
Did it?
Island. Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. Yeah.
It did.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Did you start? Oh, okay, all right. Anyway, so this is when we get introduced to. I find it difficult to figure out who. I guess it's a shared protagonist, isn't it? Lionel is a protagonist because we follow a lot of what he has to go through, but Paquita, she's equally sort of like the
They are
protagonist of this film.
star-crossed lovers. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Can I just say, when we did the introduction, I did forget to mention the cast, and it's worth doing that. These performances are memorable. And some of their future performances may have spilled out of New Zealand enough for you to have seen some of the stuff that they've been in. So let me just cover some of the, let's say 3 at least. So we have Timothy Baum, who's Lionel Cosgrove. Yep. Then we have Diana Peñalver, who's Paquita Maria Sanchez. And then we have
Vera.
Elizabeth Moody. Vera.
Elizabeth Moody.
Yeah.
Now, didn't she remind you of Bette Davis in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Like,
I can see what you're saying, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it.
I thought about it on this viewing. I never thought about it like before, which blew my mind. And then the other person, man, come on. He has a sequence, and yet again, it's his one-liner. It could be easily ranked at number 1, which is the priest. I kick ass for the Lord. It's his name is
Stuart.
help me out. What is it?
Stuart
Devaney?
There you go. Now, why I would just mention this, guys? Everyone's performance great. Uncle Les is great. He's also at the forefront of taking the piss out of Australians because that's. But that's a different story. He's not Australian, but that's what they're doing with this.
You're talking about Stuart and his
yes,
one-liner.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going through.
Magruder.
There is a show that if you have not seen it, and I'm not pushing it onto you. It's a show called The Almighty Johnsons. If you have not seen it,
Yes.
it's about a group of brothers, and they are vessels for Norse gods.
Yeah.
Timothy Balm and Delwini, which is the guy that plays the priest, ended up in playing brothers in the show. Just not just a movie, like it ran for seasons. So it's nice to see that their careers kept going, and it's something worth mentioning. Now, this show was so good that you had, I think it was a Norwegian or Swedish production. I think it was Norwegian. The Norwegians watched the show and then made another show based on a Kiwi show about their own lore. It's called The Almighty Johnsons. If you get a chance, watch it.
It's on Netflix, I think.
Yeah. Timothy Baum, which plays Lionel, plays the... I asked Anna this morning how to pronounce this, so even Anna was like... It's... Anne. Okay, it's the name of the... Apparently it's the... And it's a thing. It's a thing. It's the god of skiing. And his name is Anne. Anne. What's the... How do you pronounce this? How would you pronounce this in Norwegian anyway? Huh? What?
Right now,
Say it to the mic.
So I don't
say it here. Say it here. Come here.
Pointing to Anne and trying to say, "What is this word?"
Are you doing the subtitles?
No.
What? Yeah,
Maybe,
you're doing the subtitles.
maybe.
You should have done this
Audio
from the beginning.
description. I think that's what it's called. Audio
I think
description.
it's Uller?
Ulla.
Okay, whatever it is. Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
Like and subscribe.
So I think I'm going to go for a top-up before this goes crazy.
Right, and Delvini plays Freya's father. If you know who Freya is, or you've heard that before.
Freya?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, on that... Would you just stretching?
I said
Ricky?
I was going to go grab a drink, but
Yeah,
okay,
but you
you're
did like
talking
a
to me
weird,
directly.
you did a weird,
Because
like,
I'm
almost
trying,
like a breakdancing move.
I'm walking past all these cables. Right,
You know what
okay,
it is? Since
here's
you
an
moved
audio
to Australia,
description.
you really got into breakdancing, didn't you?
Hey, audio description land. I have got my headphone cables that are way too long because I normally use them for DJing, and I have to like kind of flick them over my head and over the microphone just to go get a drink, which was what I was in the middle of doing.
You
and
did
then
a
Umba
weird
asked me a
move.
question that I didn't hear. Umba, go ahead. What was your question?
No, whatever. Why are we friends? That was the question.
Oh.
That was the tangent. We're going to go back to Wellington.
So my question was, is it a dual protagonist film?
I would say yes. Myself personally, purely
Yes.
on the basis,
Yes. Definitely.
because they are twinned and by the stars.
Yeah,
so
but
to
she's
speak.
also the catalyst for the foreshadowing.
of course.
So the entire romance is actually fed by her, not by him. You know, she's the one that initiates this and that. Actually, it's funny how there's the proposition that she's not into it at the beginning, but just due to the foreshadowing, she goes for it. She's a traveler, Spanish traveler. That's her heritage. So something like a tarot reading is super important, which is insane, but that's a different story. So yeah, you're right. It is a dual protagonist deal for sure.
Yeah. Did anybody
I
else?
disagree.
There we go.
Disagree.
Like some good
I could feel it. I could feel Michelle was ready and I could pounce.
Yeah, I disagree. Like
Tell us why.
this whole movie is just about Lionel's evolution from no longer being attached to his mom and becoming his own person and realizing his mother had been lying to him and everything that she'd been trying to do to him. And like, I mean, at the end, he was just, I'm not taking any of this anymore. And I'm going to live my own life. I'm going to be my own person. You know, he tells his mom off, his horrible monster mom off.
Don't you think that his journey to freedom is completely aided by ultimately what becomes his partner?
Well, I think she aids him, but I think she's supplemental. Like, I don't see her as being main protagonist, her role is basically just, trying to help him when he's totally stressed out because he's got these zombies that he's trying to take care of, and she wants to be in a relationship with him, and he wants to keep her away because it's a horrible situation.
Do you think that the two characters are complementary to each other? Because it seems to me that, and almost on a whim, really, like, because it is on a whim. Like she goes from dismissing him as being completely charmless at the beginning, and it's funny that the implication that he is charmless lasts like a minute. It's a minute. Like her dismissal of him is so brief. Because you remember the look that she gives him when he goes to, which by the way, that licorice is a staple in New Zealand. I think it's called Black Knight licorice or something. Yeah.
I was going to mention that because it ties in with a card.
Okay, I'm going to help you out, Steve, because you got notes. All right.
Yep.
The tarot reading, the cards.
Yeah.
What are the, besides two of the cards in that deck? Who's designed that deck?
I don't know who's designed
Aleister
that
Crowley.
deck.
That's a Thoth deck, yeah. I mean, that's like the most famous tarot card deck there is, other than like the Rider-Waite deck. That's like the super tarot card deck, yeah. So I was paying attention to that too. I wrote down what all the cards were that she pulled and stuff like that.
I'm sure.
Keep
I didn't know about
that.
the Black Knight licorice. It's just a little factoid that you know about factoids, Michelle, yeah? The sex toys from the future.
Yes.
Factoids, because, yeah.
Yeah, like if my parents are listening to this, this is the first I've heard of it. Like,
do I have to do 2 edits of the show? Is that?
Oh no.
So let me get.
Wait a second, Ricky. Let me give you some peace of mind. I put the DJ EDM horn away. Okay, Ricky's walked away.
Yeah, because you cannot do that anymore, Uma. It's
I
doing my
put
head
it away. I put it away. Okay, I actually removed my phone from this space. Where did Ricky go?
to get his drink.
He's back. Oh, he's got the whiskey. Ricky's got the whiskey or the rum, whatever it is. Ricky, is that monkey shoulders you got there?
No, not today.
What is it?
Oh, today is just the Jim Beam.
That's okay.
No, it's not. It's
Show me
not.
the
'Cause
bottle.
it should be.
Looks a bit
monkey shoulder.
different.
No,
What
it's
is
just,
that?
I've
it's
got
just
the
duty-free
spiced
bourbon.
monkey.
Okay. Oh, just duty-free bourbon. Duty-free bourbon is the best. All right?
Anyway,
No.
Sorry.
I got
Sorry,
to
I
give you
missed
peace of mind. I said it before. I'm not taking this out of the edit. I am not going to use the EDM horn anymore. Okay? But can I just do it one more time so that I just
No.
one more time?
No.
What?
No.
Just what?
You've got it out your...
I'm just,
my
okay, I'll
God.
put the phone over here. It's done. It's gone. It's done. Okay? It's out of it. It's out of it. It's out of it. Okay?
that's why I
I'll
got
tell
the
you what, I'll
whiskey.
edit that out. Not at all. Okay. So,
Yes.
Michelle, standing her ground, she's saying that they're not complementary to it. Well, they are complementary to it. What are you saying? Tell us what your stance is on these two protagonists.
Well, I believe that Lionel's the main protagonist, and she's more of a supplementary character.
I personally, I'm a little bit on the fence because I totally agree with Michelle because this is his journey and she is part of
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey. But
Catalyst,
I just
yeah.
actually appreciate how much within the script and by the end result that she isn't just a damsel in distress or like what she is actually a big part of the story, and she is almost like the character that is constantly checking in with Lionel because otherwise he's going into a spiral of despair and depression without any support. Which
Have you been doing yoga, Ricky?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, because I've never seen this level of flexibility from you before. You have never compromised with me as much as you have with Michelle right now before. It's amazing.
I kind of think that the proof's in the pudding there for some reason. I mean,
Oh, the pudding!
oh, the pudding!
Can
Oh, I
can
brought
use
in the
the horn?
pudding!
Let me use the horn. Let me use the horn.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Like and
All right,
subscribe.
Steve, how do you feel about this?
Okay, so the entire story wouldn't have kicked off without her. That's it. I feel like she's an essential part of
I agree with you.
this.
Yeah, can I
Ricky?
just can I just ask
Lord.
about the tarot cards because I didn't read into this. Were those real cards? As in,
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
is there a
it's a card,
card
yeah.
that says oppression? on it.
Yeah, it's the ten of Wands is oppression. Yeah,
wow.
A guy's carrying a bunch of sticks on his back. It's, that you're carrying this heavy burden, which is true because he's, having to take care of all these zombies and hide it from everyone. And so, it's a real deck.
The later one, because from the tarot cards that I've seen, I've never looked into them past the lovers, the
tower,
hanging joker,
whatever,
whatever. I didn't realize
you
that
just mixed a bunch of cards together.
I don't look that closely, but I didn't realize that there's actually a deck with. I thought they were made for the film, so there you go. Something I
only
learned.
2 cards.
I
Michelle,
didn't realize it was the Aleister Crowley deck though.
Guys, I didn't know this until before this morning. So, but it's a cool little factoid. The only 2 cards that they modified is because one of them is directly related to one of the props used in the movie, so they had to change it. The other one I can't remember. Michelle,
was it the Black Knight?
Maybe the lightness. I can't remember, but it's 2 cards anyway. Semantics. Now, Michelle, you've been reading Peter Jackson's alongside Ricky, but I think you Ricky just started this morning. I think he's just found out the book about. Yeah, the one that Sally.
Yesterday, I've been doing other
there you go.
as well, so.
Well, Michelle's been reading this for a few days now. So, Michelle, did you, considering the fact that you see Leo, let's call him Leo. No, let's call him Lionel.
Lionel.
That name's been
tainted. Because you get it wrong, it doesn't make it right.
Yeah, it also makes you disappear if you're older than 25. Now, sorry, but that's what's up. In regards to your stance on Lionel's journey, you remarked the fact that obviously he's trying to break free of the controlling nature of the relationship with his mother. And you're reading Peter Jackson's book. Do you see any parallels, Michelle?
Well, his relationship with his parents was much different. Did you get to that point in the book yet? Maybe not, because everything I've read about the parents were that they were really, they were very supportive of. True. And his mom was often on the sets, and I guess she made hats for everyone that said "Braindead," and it was on the crew. Yes. However, Peter Jackson lived with his mom and looked after his mother until the age of 27 when he got married. So, that's one of the things that I just came across recently. So you got to get to that part of the book. And yet again, it doesn't matter what relationship you have with your parents. I think, particularly when you're a public figure, it would be, because there's a lot of spill into this movie. He leans really heavily into that relationship. And not only that, but not because she's not hateful in it. Yeah, she's domineering at times, but it's more how Lionel feels about his mother. It's, if you look at their relationship, the obsession is mostly on Lionel's side. And in fact, I wanted to bring something up, a parallel that I never drew before. This movie reminded me of Psycho quite a bit. Yes. It reminded me of Norman Bates' relationship with his mother.
We did have that kind of conversation while we were viewing.
Yeah, and I never noticed it before. Also, there's an obsession with showing that fucking staircase, and the banister becomes, if you've seen, you remember Psycho as well. There's a reference to how clean the banister is, then Uncle Les leans against it. There's tributes paid to other movies. Again, why not? There's tributes paid to Evil Dead. There's tributes paid to Psycho. Whatever happens to Baby Jane as well. That's one of the ones that I never noticed until the last viewing. So, yeah. And again, and Buster Keaton, there's a lot of that as well. But we'll talk about that as we get to it on the play-by-play. Ricky, where are we now in the movie?
We're only in the first 20 minutes. We haven't even been introduced to Lionel yet. So, there we go. Because when we get introduced to Paquita, she's actually very into another person who visits her shop with the amazing line during her tarot reading of "It is not Roger," and again, another great line, and it's there are so many good moments in this that are just thrown away and yet make this film into the fabulous B-movie that it is. And then we get introduced to Lionel. If somebody else wants to talk about the introduction to Lionel.
With his mom finds out that she's going to be made the treasurer of the WL, Wellington Ladies Welfare League, and that's
again,
so the house has to be
immaculate. How in America there must be leagues like that all over American states, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's. I'm sure there is. Maybe I'm just like too lowbrow or whatever to be invited to like be a part of like that kind of stuff. But I'm sure that kind of stuff still exists.
Because societally over here, especially what I've viewed in Australia, and it's probably still the same in New Zealand, that these sort of like little women's leagues or male like societal they're all over Australia. There are so many people in these little tiny towns, and they have these leagues or social clubs that they all still go to, and they're not like they used to be. They don't. If anything, it's just an excuse to leave the house on the Saturday, and it still goes on here.
Can I reference something that would actually make sense to you in particular, Ricky? You guys may know about it. I wasn't a big fan of the show, but it's ingrained in the zeitgeist for a generation at least. Globally, there's a lot of people that know about this. There was a show called Keeping Up Appearances.
Yep. And
that obsession with status reminded me, social caste and status. It's funny that in this movie is portrayed as it is, which is just an aspect. It's just a facet, but it is very much alive, even today. It's like the little club or this obsession with the idea of the monarchy. It's and that entire scene at the table remarks that, by the way. So.
Yeah. But exactly what you said. Like, nobody says over here, "Oh, I'm part of this club, don't you know?" They're just sort of like, "Oh yeah, no, on a Saturday I'm part of that club because I need to get out of the house and I need a couple of drinks and I just need a meal away from the wife and stuff." And that's what they just say. They're just like, "Yeah, it's just something we do on a Saturday or a Sunday." So, and,
just like this podcast.
Yeah, this is my Australian social club right now. So, but
funnily enough, every member of this podcast right now is not from Australia. But
yeah. This is set in the 50s too, where like women don't work, so this is their their way of feeling important. That so it's a big deal to be an important member of some committee or some group, because you don't other than your kids you don't have any kind of, this is your kind of way to feel like you've got a purpose and you can do things that are important.
With the death of Lionel's dad, Vera has the property. Vera has whatever money's been left behind. Vera can be a socialite. She doesn't need anybody. Like, Lionel doesn't work. So whatever she's sitting on enough to be a high socialite in this Wellington town.
Which is the reason why her brother wants the cash. And the house.
Uncle Les.
I love the uncle. He's so slimy. I love him.
Yeah. Yep. I'm glad he gets kicked in the nads 5 times.
I think it's meant to represent Australian culture. And it's the Kiwis' way to take the piss out of him. Ricky, now that you live there, it's obviously it's not like that at all, but it's like a tongue-in-cheek little joke, little poke. It's like the Swedes and the Norwegians making fun of each other.
I don't know how, because again, I've only been living here for 5 years. Though with my wife being Australian, I know a lot of her relatives and I know her relatives' friends. And so on the odd occasion, you do meet somebody who you're like, "Oh, you do exist. Interesting." So, and,
this is fucking public, right?
Yeah. But that's why I said relatives and their friends. She's got a lot of relatives. Her mum comes from a very large family. So it's like, it could be any of them. Could be anybody I can be talking about. You know exactly who I'm talking about.
It's an amiable jab. That's all it is. The Aussies do it to the Kiwis and vice versa. That's all it is.
You should hear Aussies talk about the grammar inflection of Kiwis over here.
Mate, you want to talk about Velcro gloves and all of the, there's jokes like it's...
it's chop. Let's go for chops and fish. Yeah, and stuff like that. But it's really interesting to like be looking at this film, knowing that a Kiwi is just ripping the piss out of everything around him, and he's doing such a fine job of it that we're only in the first 20 minutes. So the next part of the scene, after we find out and get introduced to Vera and Lionel, is that we get the biggest Chekhov gun moments ever. We get introduced to the knife. We get introduced to a lawnmower. We get a dog attack on the lawn. There's so many elements of the house that we get shown in this intro that and even if you haven't seen the film before and you're watching it for the first time, you're like, that lawnmower is going to get used there. That knife's going to be used there. There's a basement over there. There's this over there. Oh, look at the kitchen over here. I'm sure all of this is going to be used as well. It's so amazingly B-movie and yet so perfect at doing it as well.
Can you refresh my memory? Michelle, are you agreeing with Ricky? Like, is there a bit in which we get a bit of a Chekhov's gun premonition with the lawnmower? I can't remember it.
We just get the...
when she's wanting him to do all this stuff around the house, she says he has to mow the lawn. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she looks out the window and she's like, does this look like a well-maintained lawn? And it looks absolutely like pristine. True. That's another one of those great lines where she's just like, she uses, I don't remember what the term was, but she was like, does this look well-maintained to you? And it looks absolutely pristine.
Yeah, which is a weird remark as well.
Then he has to then he's mowing the lawn again, and that's when, like, Paquita comes and, kind of gets him to invite her to the zoo when he doesn't know he's really inviting
I love
her.
that exchange as well. That was a brilliant set of pickup lines there, and it was all done with that sort of tongue-in-cheek, she's acting like she doesn't really understand English, and then all of a sudden it turns into a pickup line. It was great. Love that.
And we get to be introduced to Fernando.
Poor Fernando.
One of the factoids I came across about Fernando, why the dog was called Fernando. Paquita worked for a director that Peter Jackson actually rates quite well, and his name is Fernando, before he offered her the role.
Fernando Turbro.
Well, there you go.
Turbro, yeah.
However, I lived in the Antipodes, and I know that thanks to... Was it ABBA? Is that... Yeah. There you go. I think that's where Fernando comes from. Yeah. I think that's... it's a Spanish-sounding name that we'll just call a dog that. That's fine. It doesn't matter what level of luster there is behind the name Fernando. That's a dog now. It's fine.
But
I love dogs. So
I really wanted to call it Fernando, but hey, that's just Fernando.
You can hit that sound again now, Umba.
You made me take it off, man. Can I bring it back in? Okay, I'll bring it back in.
No.
Don't.
What have I done? What have I done?
No, don't bring it back in. Don't. It's too much.
Okay. Am I the only one eating here, by the way? I have to silence my mic every time I have snacks.
I had my breakfast before I got on. So I'm good.
All right.
So they're going to Wellington Zoo now. We have... I can't tell whether he must have taken it on the day, all of those shots of the animals, but they do look very stock footage, don't they? They're having this like wonderful date, and this is the first time in the whole movie that you see the simian erraticus.
Yes.
AKA Rapey Monkey.
The stop motion was done by Richard Taylor, who's 26 at the time.
Not bad.
Yeah.
That's Michelle, what were you going to say? You went What?
Well, I was going to say that I can't believe that the rat monkey was. I mean, this is the plausibility thing again about this monkey or this rat monkey is displayed publicly and is right next to a monkey cage. Why? Like, there's no warning things, like no nothing, and he's just part of the zoo attractions.
It was the 50s.
Did we see any monkeys in the stock footage?
Yeah.
Well, there's the monkey that gets too close to the rat monkey's cage, and then he gets his arm torn off. There were like 2 or 3. There were a few monkeys, but I don't know if that's stock footage because they actually didn't have a permit to film in the zoo. No. And so he had to.
No, but I'm talking about the very proposition of having the 2 cages next to each other. This must have happened before. Yeah. Wait a second, though. It was just the rat monkey just arrived in that zoo. Right?
No,
it's a new.
maybe.
It was.
It's possible. If it's 57, he's probably not been there very long.
57. It was just a coincidence that they were in the zoo, and this is probably one of the first days that it was displayed, if not the first day.
Yeah, but
because this
what? The zookeeper that they who starts going, talks about the simian raticus. At one point, does say that thing's R-worded all the little tree monkeys and all that stuff. So I don't know how long, or maybe they tried to cage it.
That thing has done what?
I said R-worded because I'm trying.
What
to
do you
be
mean by R-worded?
R-worded. R-worded.
R-A.
What is that? There's nothing to cancel here. What are you trying not to say? Okay,
I'm trying to keep my job.
Yeah. This is the implication.
I'm trying to keep my job here, all right, as I pour another whiskey in a glass. All right. Now then. So what I found really great about that scene, though, was the lingering camera on Lionel as Paquita has already run away and is so upset by the scene, but Lionel's obsessed with it. He's staring at it, and it's almost lusting over the fact that a monkey's lost its arm. It's amazing. Loved it.
If this movie was made 10 years ago, you know who I would have casted as Lionel? Without shadow of a doubt, David Tennant.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That would have been my dream casting, because I think
10 years ago, yes. He's getting on a bit now.
Anyway, so we're in the zoo.
Vera has a very stalky face on her, and she's even hidden up with a hat. And she's hiding behind trees, but she stupidly gets too close to the cage of the simian raticus and gets bitten on the arm, and then kills the simian raticus in one of the most gory, over-the-top ways ever.
I thought it was to show that she was a bigger badass than the rat monkey, because she just slams her purse on him and then squishes her heel down on his head. She was meaner than he was.
And I like that you use the verb squish, because it's such a deliberate push down with squeeze and
it's not just
out of his head.
Once, it's multiple times. And
absolutely.
She really just treads it straight in. It's so visceral.
Absolutely. I did it a second time. Nobody said subscribe. You all suck, all of you. Now
subscribe.
Okay. In regards to unbelievable.
100%.
Where's my horn?
Smash
horn?
that bell.
Okay. I am literally tooting my own horn, by the way. All right? That's what. All right. Sorry, I wasn't going to do it.
Welcome to 1998 on BBC Radio 1 in the morning.
Right. It's very interesting you said that, Michelle, because am I confused, or the entire... We're not spoiling anything. If anyone is listening to this, besides us, which I have doubts about, they have seen the movie, so we're not spoiling anything. So we can skip forward to talk about this. I didn't even consider what Michelle just said. But ultimately, am I mistaken here in thinking that the entire sequence, when it's revealed that Vera, out of jealousy, not malice, but out of jealousy and inadequacy, she killed her husband and her lover. And the sequence where they're being drowned, She drowns both of them.
I always wondered about that because how do you drown two people? Like, she'd have to do it separately.
Scene, she's drowning both of them at the same time.
And making
wrong. Am I wrong? I think that's the sequence, right?
We only get to see the blonde ladies.
I think you see both of them.
Face.
I think you see both of them.
No, we don't.
I remember, or unless they don't happen at the same time, but even if
there's only one
person, I can tell
only
you,
one body in the suitcase as well.
All right, but you still need a certain amount of strength to drown. Someone's fighting for their life, dude. Someone's fighting for their life. I would know. I'm just saying. I'll delete this. I'll edit this out. But I'm saying it would take a huge amount of strength to subdue.
Smash that bell.
Smash that bell. Like and subscribe. Okay, so she's got a very terrible bite. She goes back home, and Lionel, and this is when we get introduced to Mrs. McTavish, the nurse. Who treats the wound and covers up the bandage. But at the last minute or the following day, when things are getting worse, after the romantic meeting between Lionel and Paquita over the balcony in a very Romeo and Juliet sort of way, we have the meeting with the WLWL, and that montage of getting ready again, brilliant, awesome,
fantastic,
amazing.
That is the sequence. That's another of the points that I was thinking about in the shower today. If you take this is Michelle. You said this is like one of your favorite horror comedies, right?
Yeah.
If you take the comedy out of this, and if this was just a horror, you take the funny out of it, it would be the equivalent of a Serbian film. There's anything from there's the implication of autosarcophagy in here, which is eating. It's basically self-cannibalism. All right. There's a huge amount of... Dude, the entire sequence, it's funny. It's the lead up to the fact that his mother is eating her own ear.
You have turned this brilliant, amazingly comedy film by bringing in something like a Serbian film, and now you've flipped it all, and now I'm like, great. Now I've got every time I'm like, oh my god, that seems amazing, and then I'm like,
no. But it is amazing. It is amazing. It would have been banned completely. Like, if you take the funny out of it, even the shade of the blood, everything. Like, if you changed a couple of things and you take the funny out of it, this movie would be absolutely terrifying, and it would be banned. It would be impossible to get. It's and I now, after thinking that, I want to see a movie like that. Like, I'm looking forward to watching something that daring, to the point of being vulgar. Like, just 2 hours of vulgarity. If you take the funny out of it, because there's nothing, you can't compare it to anything. I was even trying to compare it to Evil Dead 2. I thought that was the paragon for slapstick horror comedy. That entire sequence at the table, you take the funny out of it, it's disgusting. But it is disgusting, but it's funny.
The pus-filled bubo exploding into the custard.
It doubles down on it. It starts with, okay, I'll prep you for it. It's just a little bit of pus. Just a touch of pus. And even the puns, like, the proof is in the pudding. It's like, what the fuck? Which, by the way, the pudding... Nice
custard.
Listen, dude. There's another thing, and this is going to blow your mind if you didn't think about it. Because I didn't realize this until this last viewing. From a visual standpoint, when it comes down to the art direction of Jackson's work at the beginning... I never drew the parallel until today. You know the artist Gerald Scarfe. And you know Gerald Scarfe because of his work with The Wall. You probably know him from other stuff. But his illustrations for The Wall...
I was about to say, to expand that, Disney's Hercules. All of the concepts are of Disney's Hercules. Yeah.
But from an aesthetics point of view, if you look at the way Peter Jackson designed his aliens in bad taste, or the final creature, whereas final form in this movie, I just when it clicked, I almost hated myself because like I've seen this before. I also dismissed and rated this not as highly as I do now before. And when I saw it, I thought, holy shit, he must pay respects to Scarf's work. And then everything got cemented into this new revelation that I had when the line about pudding was uttered in that sequence. Yeah, because it's an iconic line from the war, which is you don't get any pudding.
No pudding?
Yeah, there you go.
What? No pudding?
Yeah, and man, I never thought about it, and now I cannot look away. Like, if you look at the creature design in general that Jackson opted for at the beginning. And those albums were extremely influential. The cover art was extremely influential. So it's conjecture. I'm not sure. This is not a factoid. I'm basing it on something that I don't know. What do you think, Ricky?
Yeah, no, totally.
Can you see it?
See that? Yeah. And so after McTavish has looked after Vera is then left to her own devices, basically decaying in her bed. So, and then after that, I think there's a chance there is a romantic meeting between Paquita and Lionel.
Well, when the mother gets bitten, she really pours on the guilt trip, like big time. You know, like this whole thing happened. You lied to me, and you know all of this, and you've deliberately hurt me, and really lays it on thick. And you know, you're going to take care of me now, and you know, and does this poor like, oh, you're so good to me. Like, I don't deserve all this care, knowing full well that that's totally what she expects from him. And so he agrees. He tells her that he's not going to see Paquita anymore, that he's sorry for what he's done. When she comes to return his jacket, at first he's just, no, I can't see you anymore. You've got to go. And it's all because his mother has pulled him back in to being just like, you know, you belong to me, and this woman has got to go.
I just love the quote from the mum. I'll tell you what she is. She's experienced.
We both, myself and Steve, both of us laughed our ass off when we heard that. She's experienced. Well done, Steve. I forgot about that one, man. That was a good one.
I mean, it just made me smile again.
This movie's rife. It's packed with one-liners, man.
I'm sorry, Mom.
Can I just say, as we progress, please don't forget about a character in this movie that I wish we saw more of. It's the Nazi doctor.
Yeah, but we get to that later.
Guy, man.
We get to that later.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who is the actor? What a shame. Imagine that guy just walking down the street and he's like going, Are you the Nazi guy? And
I'm sure that I've completely forgotten his name, and it was just on the tip of my tongue there. Reanimator.
And Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. I'm sure Jeffrey Combs gets that all the time, because how many times has he played?
Dude, it's funny you mention him. He was in the next, he was in
Frighteners.
After. He was in Frighteners.
And he pretty much played the same character as you've just described.
Yeah, dude, there's one, there is one accessory, like a movie character accessory, that is associated with that character. And he plays the cop. I think he plays an investigator or a cop in The Frighteners. And he has hemorrhoids. And it's a recurrent joke. You remember that?
About that? Yeah.
Yeah, that he goes around with this inflatable donut.
Yeah.
And it's a joke in the... we need to rewatch. You know what? I'm going to put on the schedule.
Because we're talking about his other movies at the moment, we just got to remember that it's Peter Jackson's up-and-coming birthday on Halloween.
Oh, when?
Halloween.
No.
Yeah, 31st of October.
So, towards the end of this dinner scene, we have a moment where... and this dinner scene was incredible. There's like loads of little lines here, there, and everywhere. One of my favorite lines is, "I'll have a few of those, lads," when the dinner plate is being moved away from the mother. And of course, you know, we've talked about the custard scene. But straight after this,
We haven't
key...
talked about the custard scene.
Have we not talked about custard?
No.
Oh, let's talk
Because
about
we
the
gotta
custard
cut.
scene.
Well,
Let's
we
talk-
gotta go back. We gotta go back a little bit. We gotta go back because, like, at the beginning. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Right. Obviously, we've got Vera basically completely falling apart, which is really amusing in itself. We've got the classic lines from the husband, where we've got what you've just mentioned, like with the sections, but we can just see it all completely closing down. Has Umba just gone for a cigarette?
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
keep
my
going.
God.
He literally sparked up just as he walked out that door, and he's on camera. But anyway, let's keep going.
So we've got the classic, which is the pus-filled buboes being exploded into the custard.
And there's little things about the degradation, like the bit that was liquid glued back onto her head when after the makeup sequence, and how that's like flopping off. And is that the element that falls onto the plate and she ends up eating it?
No,
No,
that's
it's her ear. It's her ear.
Oh, it's her ear.
Yeah.
Her ear drops off.
Her ear
That's
falls
it.
off.
And then we've got the single pill that she's chewing on and spits back out onto a plate. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. And
go ahead. I love that the wife, Mrs. Matheson, she's totally awkward and uncomfortable and just like I want to get out of here. And the husband is totally totally clueless. And my favorite line, she's asking, Mrs. Matheson is asking Vera, like, what kind of things she wants to do when she's part of the league, and he's like, "We need another war," like that. Like that was the line I really liked, where that was his solution. Like, we need another war. But yeah. He's totally clueless, and like that works in later because when they're at Vera's funeral, he was just, we had lunch with her last Friday. Picture of health. That just shows again how absolutely clueless like he was at like how awful she looked. And of course, he eats that custard that's got the pus in it and has no clue. And he was great.
I do wonder if they missed a beat there or if something was edited out, because we don't see him turn, do we? He never turns, even though he ate infected blood.
No.
He leaves. So,
he just leaves, and he's at the funeral, so he couldn't have turned.
What you're saying is that there's room for a sequel.
Oh yes. Oh yes. When after that is Paquita comes in with her dog, and then Fernando goes running upstairs after Vera has been put upstairs. Goes running upstairs, and I love this scene because of how subversive it is, because you hear the dog like growling and barking and like sounds like the dog's chewing, and you can't hear anything
like the
from
dog
Vera.
is attacking. He runs upstairs because the threat is that the dog is attacking the mother, right?
Yeah,
that's what we expect. Yeah.
And then as the camera walks into the room, there's a tail hanging out of Vera's mouth,
and the line, Ricky. Because I know you love this line.
I do love this line. It's, your mother ate my dog, isn't it?
Not all of it.
Not all of it. That's it. The follow-up line is even better. Not all of it. Yeah. That whole scene. And then, of course, Vera suddenly, like, rocks up to life, and Lionel's trying his best to, like, control her and whatnot. And then Paquita like leaves, and at some point her heavy labored breathing stops when she's downstairs and they've got the nurse to come over to see her. And again, Sally and myself, we actually love it when we find movies that have people who are very inappropriate in a scene. So there's this Bollywood film where somebody falls down the stairs, they get a brain hemorrhage, they go to the hospital, and as they go to see the doctor just goes, "I am very sorry, she is dead." And that's all he says. And out.
That's it.
We're laughing at free healthcare. That's what we're laughing at.
And the nurse has a very same reaction. Like, your mother's dead, Lionel. That's it. Out. Done. And thankfully, she gets the chomp on her. And then something that, again, might not be reflected to many audiences and many cultures is when the nurse comes back to life and starts trying to choke out Lionel, the radio gets turned on, and it's the Archers.
Yes.
It's the Archers, one of the longest running radio play soap operas in British history on Radio 4. The Archers comes on, and the music comes on while all of this mayhem's going on.
And
I'm nodding and smiling at Ricky, but I hate you because that was one of my factoids. I just stole it.
We get the drop of the, I think, was it a vase or something like that? And it's the smash where he smashes it over the head. And it's exactly the same time what they're saying about they dropped, you dropped my china.
That was brilliant.
Just
how
perfect timing.
Everything with the radio, when the radio is on throughout the movie, like it totally parallels or whatever what's happening, and with it, and like this. Like the death of the nurse, it shows you how the deaths are really going to be in this movie, because she reaches through and folds, sticks her hands in the nurse's face.
The sound of her gurgling neck is haunting me. I forgot that. Every time it's implied that they're having sex, we're going to talk about that later, obviously. But every time it's implied that they're left alone, her and the priest later. And I forgot about that sequence because then it's, you see the reveal. Yeah, you heard that, and that's what's happening. I always thought this is going to end up in the show, but I always thought, oh my God, the priest is fucking a neck hole. That's what I thought. And when I didn't see it, I was disappointed. I was like, which, we're all sick. It's fine.
Oh, in hindsight.
They should. When I didn't see the sexual embrace go down that way, I was like,
if I was Peter Jackson, what I would do is,
if you think for a second they did not think about it,
well, something about good head.
Okay. Fucking hell, man. Okay, so where are we going next?
Well, we're getting to one of your favorite characters. After they get wheelbarrowed and pushed into the basement, he needs to get some tranquilizers. Where's he going to get the tranquilizers from, Umba?
You're skipping something of one last thing that was important.
Oh, sorry.
Like again with the juxtaposition, like while his mom and the nurse are trying to kill him, Paquita's upstairs trying to pack a bag for the mom going to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so she's like, which toothbrush is your mom's? Like while he's being choked, he's like, the green one. Like, it's just so hilarious that she's just trying to get these things together while he's trying to fend off this gigantic attack from the mother and the nurse.
Well, she's still oblivious to what's happening. She's oblivious to what's happening until the end.
Yeah.
The final sequence. So
I probably completely forgot about that because all on my notes it just says throat choke to the music of the Archers. I was just so happy the Archers. I couldn't believe it. As soon as I heard it, I think I even exclaimed in front of Sally, "Oh my God, it's the Archers! It's the Archers! Oh my God, I've missed home." Anyway, so they get wheelbarrowed into the basement, and I say wheelbarrowed. Vera gets pushed in, but the nurse gets wheelbarrowed in.
Which every time someone and I want to call it an homage. This movie draws heavily from Evil Dead 2,
of course,
in particular.
Yeah,
every time the protagonist gets later on he gets thrown down the stairs as well, and he gets locked in, and it reminded me of a pivotal sequence in Evil Dead 2, which is when Ash is all of a sudden is locked in with evil. Because the person that pushed him downstairs has no fucking idea what's waiting for him down there. So even if you had evil intent by getting him, your antagonist out of the way, which is what Uncle Les does later, right? He's the one that pushes him down the stairs. So there's double threat. And It's heavy. There's also one particular sequence later on in which I think Lionel covers something with a bucket.
Oh, the head.
Yeah, he does it towards the lens.
Oh, baby.
And
Sorry.
It's what Ash does with the hand.
Yeah.
They got away from him in Evil Dead 2. I like to call it an homage, because obviously I don't even know what relationship Peter Jackson would have with Sam Raimi. I'm pretty sure that they met several times. They must have, right? Their career trajectory is very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. Have you ever drew the parallel? Both of them went from doing, being involved in projects like this, and then their career skyrocketed with Sam Raimi went off to do the Spider-Man trilogy, and Peter Jackson went on to do the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Both of them were studio movies that were massive. As I'm telling you this is not in my notes. It's something that I never thought about until now. Their career trajectory is very similar. Very similar.
Yeah.
I found Peter Jackson's childhood influences. I found it in the biography.
You got it, your 90 pages paragraph.
Yeah, so it's Thunderbirds, King Kong, James Bond, World War II and Hammer horror films. Let's see, Ray Harryhausen, the animated Lord of the Rings, and movies like Conan the Barbarian.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But what about the mother? The relationship with the mother? Did you find anything?
No. That would be in an earlier chapter that I did not read.
We'll talk about it off after the show.
Off Broadway?
Off
Broadway?
This is the 8-hour podcast on a movie that it's 90 plus minutes.
Yeah.
That becomes a stage play.
I would just say, because I covered a few of the chapters in the same biography, that he did say at the time, the big horror gore-festy films that he had watched and adored did include Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, did include Evil Dead 2. And when he started writing this film, it was pretty shortly after Bad Taste. He had basically 5 months between finishing Bad Taste and Bad Taste being released.
This movie took 11 weeks to shoot.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's already that's admirable.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know, do you know how long it took to make Bad Taste?
Yeah, because they started in 87.
4 years.
Yeah.
Because he was working weekends. So I still rate Bad Taste higher than this, and that's fine. But this got a global release. You could say that this movie got more exposure than Bad Taste
because of Bad Taste.
It's like, look, in the music, if I would have to make a parallel with the music industry or the grunge scene in the 90s, this is the equivalent of Nevermind and Bleach.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean, Ricky?
Yeah, I know exactly where
I get
you're
what
coming
you're
from.
saying.
Yeah?
I do get what you're saying.
How Nevermind got exposure, and then Bleach was actually released by Interscope or Geffen or whatever it was afterwards.
Geffen, yeah.
But it was made
Geffen.
before. And before this, Sub Pop, sorry. Before this,
Sub Pop, then Geffen.
you had the same with Guns N' Roses. Appetite got released, global wide release, before Lies. And then again, the stuff that is in Lies was actually produced beforehand. Oh.
What actually happened was 87 finished Bad Taste. In the he got told it's not going to get any sort of release till after Cannes, and so he had to wait 5 months till Cannes. And at Cannes, between those 5 months, he wrote a half an hour version of Meet the Feebles. Then they were working on Braindead as well. So when they got to Cannes, he was only meant to go for about 8 to 10 days. It turned into a 2-month trip, because not only was he going to Cannes, it then ended up going to a French festival. He also got a distributor, a Spanish one, which is how the actress was invited on board to this one, to go over there just to figure it all out. And then in 88, something happened within the New Zealand political climate where the person who is the financial minister left. Because he left...
So they cut his funding?
Yes. So they couldn't make Braindead because they said, oh yeah, we said 2.5 million. We can give you 1.5, but you're going to have to fund the other 1 million. And he was just like, forget that. I will take Meet the Feebles, which I've already started working on, and I'll turn that into a feature. Then he started working on a spec script for Nightmare on Elm Street 6 around 91, 92, something like that. And they basically didn't go with his script, but he still got paid for writing the spec script. And at that time, they were like, oh, by the way, Braindead can go ahead if you want to do it. And he was like, I don't have to go to Hollywood. I don't have to go to America. I get to stay at home and make a film that I actually care about. Cool. And that's why they did Braindead in 91. So even though they started making the script in 87, 88, it kind of burnt away and he thought it was never going to be made. And then come 91, they go, oh, you're not doing Elm Street anymore. And it's like, okay, cool. I get to do my own script. Cool.
Yeah. I've got another factor about the timeline of production here. It's I'm carb loading and my back hurts. No, that's not it.
Carb loading and my back.
No, wrong notes. This is reasons not to go to the gym today. I actually wrote this for Annie this morning.
Do you want to talk about the German vet now?
I want Michelle to talk about him.
Heinrich is so great. Like he's drooling and like.
But it's also the implication that he's one of those guys, one of those Nazis that didn't go to Argentina.
Yeah, because you see what he's doing to whatever animal that is, like that's on the table doing some kind of weird experiment or something like that. And like this has one of my favorite lines where like he's Lionel's wanting to get tranquilizer for, and he's just like, no, and like that he has sedatives. And he says, what do you think I am, a goddamn doctor? And he's a vet, like, shouldn't you be a doctor?
There's also in the middle of the frame throughout this exchange, towards the end of it, there's like a full-on shot of the swastika.
Yeah, you hear the tear of the...
That's very daring because you can't do that anymore. You know that, right?
Well,
it's like...
The entire scene is cut from the German.
And
it's
illegal. It's one of those places where it's not just banned; it's illegal for you to own a copy of a version that shows that.
Yeah,
because it's an offense. It's an offense to show any insignia representing the swastika in Germany to this day, which is fair enough.
Yeah, they're very. My brother-in-law is German, and they're very like you can't even do like this is doing like the hail.
Don't do it on camera. Oh my God, Michelle just cigared us hard. Holy shit, mate!
But like, even that's totally.
I'm running to Austria. I'm running to Austria.
No, I'm running to Austria.
I am running to Austria.
Get over there. Come on.
Switzerland is neutral.
Come on.
Switzerland is neutral.
Who is it, Daddy? And what does it do?
But talking about funny one-liners, we were hunted like dogs. I love that one.
You listen to me. You take this tranquilizer, give it to your mother. Do it now. Come on, get out of here. I
love how the bottles are like so gigantic. Like this big, huge bottle that's tranquilizer.
What would you call
it? Big, huge bottle that's poison.
That type of bottle? What is it? Is it not? It's not an mason jar.
Like I guess it's like a jug, because like a mason jar is a lot smaller. Like to me, it's like some kind of jug.
Michelle, all the labels say like in the most stereotypical way, like tranquilizer. Skull and crossbones on it as well. Like
I just he's got a real limited supply of what he works with. But
and funnily enough, towards the end of the movie, one of the catalysts is that it uses the wrong thing, and yet again the fucking label it's so clear. But maybe the bottle was turned around the wrong way, right? When he gives the stimulant to his mother. Yeah. Oh no, I did the wrong. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. The label is gigantic. It's like it says it on it. It's
on a
right in there.
Reagents bottle.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, another reanimator. Yeah, dude, it's there. But let's call it an homage fromage. Homage fromage.
Fromage.
Michelle, join us. Homage, fromage. You know, every time you take a swig out of that bottle, sounds like the gurgling neck. The nurse.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm living it in, man. Take another drink, Michelle. Take another drink.
Great photo, guys.
And so he takes the sedative. He goes into the basement, and he goes into the basement in what I can only describe as school cricket gear.
I just want to say there is an absolute little gem of a scene with him hiding from Paquita with the bottle under his arm.
Oh yeah, because he's on the streets.
And he because we get the tram go past, and he hides behind the car, and then the car drives off.
Oh, you're talking about like he's squatting on the street, right? He looks like a full-on junkie.
But they
and I actually wonder if this is an allegory for something else.
But
because he looked lost.
But what Steve's going on about is a perfect scene because he's standing there, the tram goes by, and he disappears.
Yeah.
And then the car next to the tram drives away, and he's crunched over.
It's just like absolutely perfect.
It's the comedy, dude. It's the comedy. I told you. You take the comedy out of it, you get Requiem for a Dream, you get Serbian film.
Oh, mate, don't bring those.
You get Human Centipede. You get
the whale.
Oh my god, yeah. You get like full on fucking it's full on.
Indecent Proposal.
Right. Oh my god. What the fuck?
No, Indecent Proposal.
Did you say Indecent Proposal?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did. So what?
Okay, conceptually it's horror, but did you just put Robert Redford?
No, I meant films that are incessantly depressing. Indecent Proposal.
Yeah, but how the fuck are you
Leaving
putting
Las
Indecent
Vegas.
Proposal in the...
Because
I want to see that movie now, dude.
What do you want? Do you want to see, like, what as a double bill, Leaving Las Vegas, then a Serbian film? Which one's more depressing?
No, okay, it's a different story, but
and then follow it up with Boogie Nights, which is inherently a really lovely, fun film, and then you get to the last 20 minutes, and you're like, oh my god, I hate my life.
I don't know. I just look. That movie has been marked like by the memory burn that I have of Philip Seymour Hoffman in it. Like he's one of my favorite actors, and that's a great loss for the arts. But again, there's a drug he was a heroin addict, right? Mm-hmm. That's how he went. Mm-hmm. But everything you see him in when he was funny, he was hilarious. I don't know why I went there, but I really miss him. His son is showing a lot of promise. A lot promise. Have you guys seen Licorice Pizza?
No.
No,
I'll cut this out of the show. I don't give a shit. So don't worry. It's a tangent.
No, you won't. I know.
Yeah, you know. I'll make it work.
The Fly, I expected to see it at 1 hour 50. What are you doing it 2 hour 20?
I'm going to tell you something, Ricky. I'm going to tell you something because I talked about it with Steve and we both laughed at you. And this is coming from someone with the... I am the paragon for speech impediment syndrome, okay? I'm the one that you can barely fucking understand. Yeah. And yet... 8 times? Yeah,
8
Steve
times.
is laughing because I'm going to cut this out of the show. Can you do me a favor? Can you tell me the word that you would use to describe the driving force behind sexual drive? It starts with L.
Libido.
Okay, it's not a fucking word, my friend.
Libido.
It's libido. It's libido, not limbido. And I thought you got it wrong once. I didn't correct you. Nobody corrected you because I didn't want to fucking...
I don't think anybody corrected me.
No, because I didn't realize, but I listened to the show when I edited.
You guys are fine. So I blame Steve, actually. Steve should have been on point on that one.
Listen, I'm not putting you on the spot.
I was hungover.
I know. That's why I'm blaming you. That's why you're here. You're actually the most Caucasian English speaker out of the three of us. So.
Absolutely, and culpable on top of it. It's always your fucking fault. But
everybody blames Steve.
Can I just? Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you should get your own TV show. I'm just saying. or for modern audiences, it could just be called "Fuck
I've got to say, Umba. I've got to say though, I didn't come from an English-speaking household, so I'm doing quite well for what I'm doing.
No.
So,
I was going to praise you now. So wait. There's a path to redemption. I put you on it. And there's a beautiful way to end this, which is I had to listen to the show when I edit the show. And then I'm doing that thing like it's as navel-gazing as it gets, but I listen to the show as well. I stopped listening to other podcasts. I listen to our own shit.
But this is exactly the conversation we had.
Not even with the function of thinking that, if I listen to it, will improve. Fuck that. No. I listened to that particular episode 3 times, and on the third go, I started enjoying the sound of a word that doesn't exist. So I thought, it should be a limbido. It shouldn't be. Yeah,
well,
because it sounds like a...
We
I don't know, an exotic little party dance like limbo and libido.
We haven't even got to halfway, and there's a word I've written in my notes that I always get wrong. So I'm appreciating the fact that I've written it correctly here.
What is it?
If I say, so it's reprobates, but I always say
reprobates,
and I always say retrobate.
Did you just fucking hear Steve trying to say it? Because he sounded like he's had a stroke.
Reprobates.
Yeah, now.
What?
Yeah, fine.
No, but anyway, I always say retrobate.
No, I didn't do that on purpose. I just tried to take something off my screen.
Can we get back on track, guys?
Yes.
No.
Yep. Oh, come on.
Michelle looked at the time. I think she just looked at the time.
No, I was looking at my notes to figure out where we are next, and it's the funeral. We got the funeral now.
Wait, Michelle, can I just give you some peace of mind?
Too far?
I take tangents all the fucking time. I talk a lot of shit, just like I am right now. And he manages to go back because he's a teacher. Did you tell Michelle what you do for a living?
No.
He's a teacher.
I'm a teacher.
And he deals with children. And that's what this is. So
Dealing with children?
Yeah. It's not that I'm giving him like this gargantuan task. It's his bread and butter. So take us back to where we need to go.
I'm a primary school teacher, but my current role is that I work with learning support. So basically, all the children that find it way too difficult to be in classrooms, I basically walk in there and go, do this adjustment, that adjustment, this adjustment. I'll come in a couple of weeks and then we'll relook at everything.
This was your chance to do a Matt Dillon and go, so what do you do? I work with retards. You couldn't. I'm not putting this in the show.
Special educational needs.
Yeah. Did you just put your hoodie up, Steve? You look like the shittiest Sith Lord ever. Can you just...
Are you keeping this in the show? Because I want to remove myself from that word you just said.
Are you joking? Anne works with people with intellectual disabilities. I'm not allowed to put the
Oh my god, he's pulled out the lightsaber, quick. He's going to kill all the children. He's going to kill all the children.
I don't know. They were sexual. I went to a sexual world with what you just said. I didn't go to it. I went to a dark place.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Did you know that Sith is an anagram of shit? But anyway,
Ricky,
I'm gonna get myself
also,
some water.
The technical term was younglings.
Yeah, take the hood out. Take the hood down.
Younglings, yeah.
All right. Okay.
I deal with a lot of younglings as well. They have special abilities.
What is it? Order 44? Is that what it is?
66.
66.
66.
Can you say that with a lisp?
66. 66. So he goes into the basement with the sedatives, and he's got all this cricket gear on, and it just reminded me of my youth so much because, especially growing up,
cricket gear.
Especially growing up in the UK, and you would either have to borrow the school's cricket gear that was old, it just like it used to fall apart and smell just way awful.
I'm just gonna better you on that one.
Yeah,
fencing equipment.
Oh, fencing equipment as well.
School's fencing equipment. If you ever got lumbered with the stock mask, which has been used by every shitty kid. Ever.
And like just the smell of saliva just coating the inside of it.
Gross.
Yeah. But the cricketing gear, and I was just saying, you either borrow the school's one, or you're that sad person who bought your own stuff, which could cost up to like in US terms probably about $250.
If not more.
You would have to carry it to school, so you'd have to then buy the bag for it and everything. Thank God I was, and I'm using the correct term here, the only thing that I was close to when it came to cricketing was I was the scorer. I'll leave that with you. Anyway. Yeah, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't,
where are
I didn't
we,
get
man?
much at high school. I've got to admit. Anyway, so he tranquilizes using the sedative to. He uses it up the nostril. No, in the eye to the
it's
nurse
up the nostril
or the
with the
nostril?
mother. And with with actually,
Yep.
it's interesting you say that because he tends to inject the same point with different. With the mother, he goes up the nostril. With the nurse, goes in the eye.
Was it the eye?
Yeah,
eye.
I think so.
So with her head detached the way it was, would that work?
Yeah.
Would that work?
Yeah, but
If it-
that was one of the things that the pressure sometimes would push the head backwards. So you remember that the head keeps going
but would
backwards.
it work? What I'm saying is because, like, surely,
you
like the jugular and
Really? That's the again. What the fuck? I first of all I thought that was Michelle's job to try and bring plausibility into this.
hey. We already went down the
What the fuck
pedantic
do you
route
know about
to
human
begin with.
anatomy, man?
My goodness. My goodness, down the jugular.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, so now we're at the funeral. Now we're at the funeral.
You have a nursing gripe with this. That's what you just brought into this.
We're at the funeral.
Sorry.
And the funeral has everybody standing outside. We get introduced to Uncle Les. We get to see...
G'day, mate. He's Australian through. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. I
Instantly
don't even
kind
know.
of latches onto Paquita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
the church,
he sees her.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
slimy man.
Yeah. Well, he does what he does very well, right?
Yeah.
You know, in this movie, because of that, he kind of deserves it. He gets kicked in the nuts exactly 5 times.
I already said that
Yeah.
earlier on.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
You know what?
it's-
I'm gonna edit
yeah,
this.
it's
Like
constant.
I'm gonna make it sound like I said it. All right, go on.
So because of Uncle Les's libido... Lumbago.
Smash that bell.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. I'm actually talking about the funeral, and of course Lionel goes in to make sure that Vera stays dead, or dead-like. He's creeping in to the embalm because the funeral director in the earlier scene goes, oh no, I think I've forgotten something. And what he's forgotten is that Vera is still on the table being embalmed with loads and loads of tubes.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
by the time Lionel
So
walks
great.
in, she's expanded to the size of a zeppelin.
Bubbling.
You actually see her body inflating throughout the
Yeah.
sequence as
Yeah.
well. You think it's like it's built in suspense. It's like it's going to explode, and then we get a cameo from.
Yep.
Peter
Yeah,
Jackson.
We get it from Derek because that character might as well be called Derek because it's
Yeah.
exactly the same character from Bad Taste.
Yeah.
He plays him the same way, which is great.
Does he have like a sandwich? Doesn't he have like his sandwich or
Yeah.
something like that
So
on
when
top
you-
of the
body.
mom?
Yeah, when you first see
Might as well,
Vera,
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It looks like he's eating something. Yeah.
when you first see Vera's body.
But wait a second, he's the equivalent
slowly-
of Igor as well, Michelle. Like when he comes in, it's like, yes, master. Like,
Igor.
Igor.
No,
Sorry,
but
we're-
in Young
we're-
Frankenstein, he says Igor. In
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein, he makes a point to say it's Igor.
Yeah, don't let Umbar off the hook. He's already picking on
Thank
my
you,
speech
Michelle.
impediment.
Thank you,
Oh,
so, you know.
okay.
It's
Okay.
like, oh yes, of course, Umbar. You were referencing
You know
the
what,
Mel
if I-
Brooks
if I went
film,
on-
Young Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Which Frankenstein.
Which, by the way, if I was going to go full Italian on this, I would have gone, oh, yeah, he looks like a Igor.
Look at
And I
him,
didn't
look at
say
Igor.
that, so fuck you.
Come on,
Okay.
say my favourite line from The Untouchables.
You're nothing but talking about.
Talking about.
All right.
So Peter Jackson, of course, has his cameo, and his cameo is, as you said, it's Derek from Bad Taste. But on top of that, he's probably he's probably gets dealt with physically the most out of any other actor in this film. He gets proper slapped up by the Undertaker.
Undertaker, yeah.
Yeah, and he loves it. He's smiling throughout it, and he like takes that hit a couple of times, and it's amazing. And then we actually have the funeral scene, which kind of turns into a little bit of it turns a little. The movie's gone out of my head now.
Slapstick comedy,
not only slapstick comedy, but you. I keep thinking of how The Simpsons did it, but I'm trying to think. Oh, The Graduate. Of course, it's The Graduate.
Oh.
The whole busting through during the funeral with the body and holding on to her and stuff. I just kind of, for some reason, it reminded me of The Graduate with, with the wedding scene. Anyway. And then throwing crosses. I don't know why. For some reason, I thought The Graduate as soon as I saw that scene. But I do love that post that scene where he's clutching onto the body after he's been beaten up by his mum. She busts through the coffin and there's just carnage everywhere. A glass breaks. But having the priest suddenly go, I've seen some displays of grief in my time, but nothing like that. But
it's just the other person who says, "Oh, he's dreadfully attached to his to Mira."
I loved it how the priest is talking about the sanctity of motherhood, and there's nothing like a mother's love, and while Lionel's being strangled and all that stuff by his mother, where the priest is saying how much your mother loves you and everything, and she's trying to kill him. I think that's
the
great.
emphasis as well. That he's in a position, is clergy, so he can do that. So the emphatic nature of that entire speech and the opposite happening in the background is perfect. It's just, that guy's, dude, he's got killer lines in this.
Oh, so many lines.
I was really bummed that he got killed because he was just so great at everything. And then he was great as like a zombie too, but he was just like this great kick-ass character, and you feel bad when he ends up turning into a zombie.
It's not that it's undignified, but it's like almost circumstance, because it's like he kills everybody. Like he basically is a badass that entire sequence, and then almost by mistake, one of the heads from the decapitation of one of his kicks or something just falls on his shoulder and takes a bite. Yeah. So it's like that's it. You have no control over this. It's not a lack of skill on your part. It's just circumstance.
And what's great about the scene afterwards, after the funeral, and once we get to the graveside, where again Lionel's trying to dig up his mum. I don't know what he wants to do with his mum. I'm assuming more sedatives to keep her down.
Yeah.
That's what I assume. But maybe he is trying to resurrect her body to take her back to the house to keep her in the basement. But this is where we get the 50s reprobates. Oh, my God. I almost said it wrong again. Almost. And how the greasers and all come in. They're pissing on her grave. We've mentioned something like that earlier on. But it has the best gore scene that suddenly happens towards the end of this, where while he's pissing on the grave, you're urinating on my mother, or whatever he says, is that all of a sudden he gets grabbed by the manhood, brought down, and then it's just a spray of blood shooting in all directions as his innards are being eaten out. Right there and then. That gut spraying is amazing. And that's when the priest comes out again.
Stay back, boy. I got this.
The devil is amongst us.
This calls for divine intervention.
Yeah. And of course, there we go, the immortal line, I kick ass for the Lord.
Which I kind of expected Umba to say, because he loves that line.
I do, but it's so prominent that I don't feel comfortable in placing it at number one. I think that she's experienced and the outrage that Vera kind of channels through that is possibly my favorite line out of the movie.
She's experienced, yeah.
She's experienced,
definitely.
and I completely forgot about it. And maybe because my life experience has changed. You know, it probably was like he cast for the Lord. I don't know. It's just my perception of it. I think it's the one because I know exactly what she's trying to entail.
Yeah,
and you do as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And yet she can't say it because of her status or whatever she's obsessed with. It's it's very satirical. I like it.
With mispronouncing words when the greasers are making fun of Lionel, the one guy calls him a macrophiliac. You
This movie pokes fun at everybody.
Oh my
Absolutely
god!
Everybody.
Wasn't it? Some of my best friends are pedophiles.
Yeah. But it pokes fun at
it's
subcultures as well, not just institutions. Like, you know, the obsession with status, the clergy, the government, Australians, and then it pokes fun at groups and subcultures like the Teddies and the Greasers, and I never noticed that angle before. But it's not that it's taking the piss; it's a satirical jab. It's like it's almost doing it in an endearing manner. There's something about this movie that I didn't pick. There's a layer I didn't pick up on in other viewings.
I think one of the things that really brings me back to this movie time and time again is that element that there is just, it's so packed with humor and it's so packed with one-liners that you never get bored no matter how many times you see it, because you inevitably forget about 40% of the one-liners.
But it's not just that, it's visual gags as well. So when we're watching the film, where both myself and Umba were enjoying rewatching this, and we were seeing little details that I've obviously missed on previous watches, which is kind of strange for me because I remember quite a lot of films vividly, but this time it was just the little thing. For instance, when she cuts herself with a razor, but I didn't realize it was a razor, but she cut which she breaks down, which breaks it open. I just thought she just pulled it or something. But it's seeing those little details change in a rewatch. Maybe it's just the fact it's not on a VHS, which has been like rewound and replayed so many times in my youth. You know, it's that simple fact of watching it in a higher definition now and seeing those scenes recovered and that kind of stuff. Because it's quite interesting. The version which me and Umba watched, Umba, can you verify this? Was it the 104-minute version?
No, but you're close. I actually looked into that this morning, and I did find a couple of numbers. It's not, the discrepancy is not that huge, but it makes sense. Basically, as Steve was describing, yes, we saw a difference in the grain of the film, the saturation of the colors as well, and it looked like sources, because until, as you know, Peter Jackson is now focused mostly on producing. He's still directing whatever he makes, but his documentary work has been amazing. Like whatever he's done with the Beatles lately, and whatever he's done with a World War II documentary that, if you know about, you know how impressive it is. It's basically colorized and retreated without the use of AI or just assist, possibly just an assist. He's done incredible work when it comes down to restoration of all the footage. And I wouldn't expect anything less, but if it's Peter Jackson doing it, you know it's going to be impressive. He's promised that he would actually curate the transfers of his early work to 4K. And I expect that work to be unbelievable. Until that happens, if you want to watch a full version of this movie, which is basically the unrated, uncut version, because again, this movie did get a global release. It was distributed on several markets, like we discussed earlier, and because of the restrictions of censorship based on local law across the world, there's 10,000 versions of this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when it comes down to the difference on most cuts, it's minutia, it's nothing. But otherwise, we have a discrepancy of about 7 minutes of footage. Jackson's favorite version, allegedly was 97 minutes. And the one that was released on the US market, which is the version that Michelle would have been exposed to the most, is actually Jackson's favorite cut. And I agree with him. Because what we've seen cut, Steve, if you remember, during our session, when we watched the movie, like, we even looked at the sequences and we tried to justify it. There's nothing really missing.
The only one which I saw, was the section with the priest and the nurse with the pole between them. Yeah,
yes,
but
that's what I was. Yes, so I definitely saw that cut, the 104 minutes, and yes, it has the Queen Elizabeth at the start, and that was the bit that was missing. The whole pole through. So when they're doing it, there's suddenly a pole that just like they fall upon like a mop or something. Yeah, man, I must have seen probably all the cuts of this film at some point in my life.
I think the VHS you had may have been the unrated version, which is the same versions that I had when I was younger. I mean, probably what's happened is the cut which me and Umba saw may have been a version of that cut intersected with a higher definition version. So somebody stripped out the video content and audio from a video cassette, which was probably a third or fourth gen copy, because the coloring was absolutely terrible on the version we saw. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, don't forget that this was not. It would, unless it gets treated, the movie still will never look great. It was shot. I didn't know this. It was shot on 16mm, and that shows. It shows.
And it's like really. Yeah, hard to transfer.
It's grainy. Only someone like Jackson would have to put it through the ringer to get something good out of it. And the thing is, it's funny because you have 8mm and maybe 16mm footage of World War II. If you watch a documentary, it's insane. So he's had experience in doing it, and that's why he probably released that statement.
I think that was actually World War I footage, so that's even grainier and degraded.
Yeah, I think you're right. Thank you for the correction. Yes, yes. And it's outstanding. You've seen it, right? It's on Disney Plus as well.
Yeah.
I think.
I've completely lost where we are, mate. Like,
okay. We are. Michelle's coming to rescue.
For the Lord, right?
Yeah, we are at the graveyard scene.
Yeah.
We're getting to the graveyard scene. Yeah.
No, we are in the graveyard
scene.
Yeah.
So I think we went through where the priest basically kills
gets beaten.
And he gets bitten, but he's killed everyone that's in the group except, Boyd, who's the leader. He's the only one that doesn't have a head.
Well,
or
there's
the other ones are missing. I can't remember how many greasers total were in the group, but 4. So all but the leader, Boyd, they all have, I guess they're dead, for good dead, because they're missing. Although I don't understand, is that one guy where the head that bit the priest, is that head just in the graveyard somewhere, and anybody who walks by can
this is where
be an ankle biter or something?
This is where the law gets really murky, because Sally said the same thing as well. So how is that the leader of the group still alive, and that one guy who just happened to have his head cut off not alive or dead alive? Hey, but what?
Look, wait a moment. We don't fucking know what happens to Wellington after this.
I think because
it's not given for granted that it's over.
I think because we've had films in the past like Evil Dead prior to this film, or Evil Dead 2. I think part of cinema is trying to be okay, does that mean the virus is done, the disease is done? And in a weird way, Peter Jackson kind of ends this film.
Whoa,
and I know I'm
so
jumping
what's
to
the
the
parallel you're drawing with Evil Dead 2? Because that's a saga.
Because Evil Dead...
That will never be over.
Yeah. Evil Dead 2, fine, but Evil Dead, you know how Evil Dead, he comes out into the daylight and he's like walking around and it's like the night's over and everything's okay, and then the camera does the crazy...
Oh my god, that's a terrible example you just brought up.
No, but that's what I mean. What I'm saying is that we're used to that sort of cinema language. We're used to that being like, oh, but is it over? And in this film, in Braindead, Dead Alive, it kind of, because we have the romantic music and they walk off into the moonlight, we feel like, oh, everything's resolved. That personally,
it may
that's how
be
I
for
felt.
them, momentarily, but not for the town.
But yeah, I mean, again, if we think about sequelization and stuff, because there's no sequel to this, we've got to assume that everything's okay. Everything was fine. Everything was destroyed by a lawnmower, which we still haven't got to. So let's go back to...
Over the fire.
We're getting there.
Let's go to the dinner scene, or the breakfast scene, or whatever scene it is that was very reminiscent, I feel, of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but a very funny, light-hearted version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner scene. I love this. I can't help but be so glowing of this film. The nurse's neck thing when she's like trying to eat, so he just shoves the porridge down her throat. And the greaser trying to like eat, the spoon just goes straight through the back of his head.
It's amazing.
And then
it's so
Vera
comical.
grabbing food from the back of a spoon,
putting
it in her mouth.
There is one thing that the thinking I was doing in the shower this morning, and why I already decided which I'm not going to tell you guys.
Man, was this like an hour and a half shower? Was this like a podcast? Length shower.
No, our podcasts go on a lot longer.
I'm just saying. I made the executive decision of choosing the song that is going to lead us out. Okay, you're not going to hear until you hear the episode. But I realized I saw another layer to this, and to Lionel. It seems to me that because of the close relationship with his mother and the restrictions that would have been that would imply when it comes down to his development as a person, I never realized this when I watched the movie prior to the last viewing. He has an inexistent relationship with understanding, or having any sort of understanding towards the concept of letting go and death. At the table, particularly in that sequence, you see this desperate. It's the first time that I picked up on it. You see this desperate need, which is almost obsessive, to keep everybody alive, and it's just it just cannot let go. And I know this for a fact because my relationship with death itself is not very good either. I'm not ashamed of admitting to it. It's one of those milestones that I'm trying to work on. But just the very idea that this will end. And Lionel is it's comical when he attempts to do it, but he's doing it out of desperation. He cannot grasp the fact that his mother needs to go. Because until the end, he's keeping her alive, man. He's keeping her around. He's keeping everybody around, like he can fix this. It's not, so he just, it's basically a cry for, please don't go, just don't go, just stay. And that's what I got out of it. Yeah, that I didn't see this. So the entire resolution is the fact that he grows a deeper understanding via the presence of another party in his life, which is Paquita, and that's why I see her as a protagonist as well in this. He grows through her because the resolution that we get at the end of the movie, that everything's going to be fine, is okay. That's behind me now. But until that's consolidated, the fact that they are together, they're an item. He doesn't have the tools. Because that's desperate. That attempt to, it's comical because it's just ridiculous. They're all dead. Just fucking, if anything, the thing that you need to do is to let them go. No, it's trying to keep everybody alive. And there's no other reason why he would have to do that. So, and the only thing that I could attribute it to is the fact that he cannot deal with death itself.
So there's a really important line which comes up during the film, which is from Paquita, where you go, you must destroy them. And Lionel goes, I can't, not Mum. And she turns around and goes, that thing's not your mother. It's that kind of instrumental idea that you can't hold on to that kind of stuff.
So yeah, I can see what you're saying, Umba, because when it comes to loss, he does have this difficulty, and it is interesting seeing B movies or under-budget movies or low-budget movies, especially gore horror movies, because a lot of these horror movies get like put to one side and saying like, oh, they're just for gore effects, they're just for effects. But the storylines that come through these sort of movies are amazing. These movies do not stand the test of time if they do not have a solid backstory or a through line or a theme that works throughout the whole movie. And what better than zombie films to talk about loss? Or talk about
I mean, it's an
existential.
It's an existential concept, and you wouldn't expect a film like this, or at least I didn't expect for a film like this to explore this. It's been there since its inception, from the beginning, But I never noticed. So
Simon Pegg said that this movie was a big influence on Shaun of the Dead, and there's the whole like relationship with the stepfather, and then how he has to deal with, that he realizes that he really does love his stepfather, but it's too late because now his stepfather is dead, and then like later on his mom gets bitten and he's got to deal with the fact that like she's going to turn into a zombie, and like all of that came from what was, from Dead Alive.
There's like also so much like oh, sorry, like and subscribe. There's so much. There's so much within. So I cannot talk about horror films without thinking about like all the B movie horrors that are in my collection that I have. Trauma is such a huge part of my life, and I can't and I can't talk about half of horror without thinking about those films that everybody always goes, I'm never like I'm not into that stuff, or I've heard it's all really gross and stuff like that, without thinking about those films that I've been like, no, if you sat down and actually like thought about the story. And one of the ones that always comes to mind is Terra Firma. Terra Firma is that sort of film that if you look at it on the outside, or if you just look at it on the cover or whatever, is a sort of film where you kind of look at it and you go, so it's about some guys making a B movie, so it's just trying to be meta. Great. It was trying to be meta at the time that is before is being meta. Oh, now they've brought in a hermaphrodite, and now they're kind of taking the mick out of the fact that nobody accepts hermaphrodites in this day and age. But when you like look at a movie like that, you're sort of like, how does it get from the start to the end without me getting bored? And I feel like that's one of the things that is missing from modern horror nowadays, which is too many of them are trying to hit this like 2 hour 15 mark for no reason, when a 90-minute film is pure genius.
We are going to remark this in every episode. In every episode we've done, all of us collectively have this longing for a time in which a movie was 1990. If I want more exposition, if I want more something a little bit more layered that aids characterization, then I will watch episodic fucking drama.
So I wanted to kind of bolster what you're saying about trauma videos and stuff like that, especially because we've got directors which have come off the back of trauma, like James Gunn. And what he did with Slither, which again was a great movie.
Did you say Slither?
Yeah, Slither.
I love that movie.
Michelle posted about. Did you watch it last night or the night before or something? Michelle?
I watched it. I watched it a couple days ago. And fantastic. I posted the line that I posted when they first see the husband. He's like, he looks like something that fell off my dick in World War II. I mean, it's just like it's just the greatest movie.
They have a similar pacing to Braindead in the sense of, it's gory, slapstick, it's got comedy elements, but it's got that heart. It pulls us in, and it's not, again, I think, how long's the running time on Slither?
I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to an hour and a half.
Yeah, 90 minutes.
It's not a long movie.
No, but it's got that beginning, middle, and end, and it sticks the ending.
So anyway, we're at the point where they're having dinner.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're having dinner, and the priest is looking pretty randy towards the nurse, and of course Lionel tries to separate them to begin with, and then as
that
he walks
entire
up,
sequence when Uncle Les is
yes.
like, "Oh, so
Yes.
you're watching porn, right?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah, man's got to do what he's got to do.
Stag
you
movies.
you found your dad's stag films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he basically he literally puts him with his back against the wall because he keeps taking a step backwards towards the door, and the incessant kind of reaching the climax or whatever's going on behind the door keeps advancing and advancing. It's it's an exercise in suspense as well. It's comical. You take the comedy out of it, and it's weird. Like, it's very
Uncle Les. Uncle Les is the one who really knows who the dad really is. You know, like he says all the time about like that he had a way with women and like the stag parties and stuff. Like it seems like that's how you discover like what the dad's character, like what kind of person he was completely through Uncle Les, and like you realize that like the dad was probably really kind of a, really not so great.
He's a con artist and he's got an ulterior motive, but he's not connecting with his nephew because he's not a paragon for the level of toxic masculinity that Les can relate to. Les is a pretty piece of shit. But this is also implying that his father was also a piece of work as well. Yeah. So
it's
which
interesting.
gets us to sympathize again a little bit with Vera. There's moments in which that it's wrong and whatever else, but there's a couple of moments in which I picked up on I think we all did.
A couple of viewings down the line, yeah,
a couple of viewings down the line. She's not just this monster. She's obviously been through something as well. And there's a moment in which you see true solace whenever she at least thinks that her son's looking after her. It's endearing, and it's weird that this fucking movie took me there because it's meant to feel that way. It's whenever it connects with you. And wait a second. It didn't. Of course, look. It's not as black and white as it seems, and I'm not trying to portray Vera as an endearing kind of figure in this movie at all. No, she's the typical manipulative, matriarchal presence in anybody's life, But at the same time, she's a human being, and ultimately, not everybody's cut for parenthood, or not everybody's not. She's been through something traumatic herself that has pushed her to murdering two people. So I'm not assuming that she was. Obviously, the way she's treating her son is a product of trauma as well. So I'm not justifying it. Villains are made, and I think that's what happened to her.
Can I point out, this B movie is covering all of these themes.
Yeah, it is.
You mentioned the word trauma. It's like, and all of, like, it's a movie that ends in one of the biggest bloodbaths I've ever seen on a screen. And it has trauma, it has romance, it has longing, loss, grief. It has so much going in it that it's just such a weird, like, I think that's
it is.
why
But Ricky, did you pick up on any of these layers when you watched it the first time? No, I didn't.
But that's what I was going to say. It's so interesting that that Michelle brought that up. And it's so interesting that we've started talking about this, because probably the first time I watched it, I probably was all out on Vera is a. Sorry, I'll do it in my in my favorite actor's voice. Vera is a bitch. And
that's Michelle. That's James Spader, by the way. So you know that.
Yeah, I remember that from other episodes. I almost when you were saying about that David Tennant should play Lionel, when you were saying who should play Lionel, I almost said James Spader. Throw back to other just to like do the, since you guys were talking about him and other, about what if James Spader played this or that.
Michelle, this would be a whole different movie if James Spader.
Now I'm trying to picture it in my head.
He'd be like, no, Paquita, no, my mother is the most important bitch in my life.
if you would like to return my jacket, that's fine. If you don't, it doesn't matter really.
Give me my jacket. Yeah. God,
which, by the way, he does say that to her. He does say, it's not important. No, don't worry about the jacket. It's fine.
But I was saying that like that's
Could
really
be
interesting
returned
because
tomorrow.
the first time you watch this film, you have no sympathy for Vera whatsoever.
No, not at all. No.
Vera is, and when Uncle Les is talking about his father, you're just like, Uncle Les is being a sleaze. I don't care what he's got to say because he's an awful person. But that's exactly right. His dad was a horrible person too. Lionel has been surrounded by horrible people. Paquita is the only person who can pull him out of this situation, out of this traumatic envelope of family that constantly surrounds him.
Okay, so where are we now?
We're at the bit where Les says, some things a man wants to do on his own. So this is the point where he's walking on the street with more tranquilizer.
Oh, and it happens afterwards.
Yeah, it happens here.
Yeah.
But while he's doing this, and when he has the
Michelle, wait a sec. Michelle, want to say something?
Well, there's one point where Uncle Les says he needs to use the bathroom, and they show him in the bathroom, and he's kind of like,
yeah.
And I wondered if he has like some kind of like erectile dysfunction issue or like something like that, where he has like.
I think he's got stones or something like.
I think it was kidney stones.
But
you know
like,
what? You know what? It's funny you mentioned that sequence because it goes longer than it should. It's the entire piece of sequence, and because as the viewer, you know, like usually,
are you? I know, like that sigh of relief.
He's like,
which one?
Have you had that, Umba? Has that been part of your vocabulary?
Not yet, but probably soon. Well, the idea is that the camera is lower as well, so it's like is like almost
your ball height. Your testicle height.
You're right in there, and it's like it made me uncomfortable. We were watching the movie, and I just thought, why is this long?
Why am I watching this on my projector, man? Oh my god!
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you think about it as the viewer, you are kind of forced into it. Which, by the way, as much as we all like Uncle Les, credit goes to the actor that played him, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention his name, and I have it on my notes. Close to my notes.
Ian Watkins.
He plays a despicable character so well. He looks like a used car salesman or something as well. Like he's, but
and his hairline is very much like a little bit Trumpy.
It's a piece as well.
It's a piece.
I like the toupee. That's.
There is one sequence that reminds me, and I wonder if it's another homage, and I'm pretty sure that it is. It is when we have later on during the final confrontation, which we're going to get to soon.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
We can gloss over the amount of blood.
It doesn't surprise me because it was very influential by Jeunet and Caro, and it's my favorite movie they've ever made and they will ever make because it's a case of two directors speaking too early. All right, and that is Delicatessen. I actually rated it really, really high. Delicatessen came out in 1991. It made, it's a global impression. It's super influential.
It is a good movie.
And there is sorry?
It is.
I was just saying it is really good. Yeah, I was agreeing with you.
There is one sequence where Les is in a frenzy, in a killing frenzy all of a sudden. Because that's another turn for Uncle Les, man. Yeah. He goes kick-ass, he starts killing people as well. Right? He does it out of self-preservation, but all of a sudden you have a character who's kind of saving the day at one point as well. And there's a bit when he goes crazy, you see the full frenzy. There's a little bit of, again, another editing feat in which it's simple, but they speed up the frame rate and it's like to show that he's in a frenzy, like full berserk. And him shaking the two knives and blood just splattering just reminded me of Delicatessen heavily.
The fact that I know what to do. I've read the comics. Total body dismemberment.
Yeah, it's a great sequence. I wish we got more of that in this. And funnily enough, the camera is in the same position as when he was taking a piece earlier on. So
I took something from you earlier. That was something I was going to talk about later as well. So we are equal.
Oh, did I steal this from you?
You stole that one from me. That's okay. I stole one from you earlier.
It's a draw.
But like, I can tell you now, like, as much as we're trying to get to the end of the film, that final sequence, there is too much in that final sequence. That final act is incredible.
There is a lot going on,
B-movie slapstick. And actually, one of the things that the term that Peter Jackson has used in the past is splatstick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what?
300 liters of splatstick.
Yeah. They actually got in trouble. It's one of the factoids that I have, and I'm going to steal it from one of you. So
Okay.
they got in trouble. They got in trouble with the council.
Yeah.
Because when they were trying to dump, you know about this?
Yep.
Steve, have you got the fact, or are you just going to say yeah?
No. You say it. You say it. We keep stealing stuff from you.
I know exactly about this.
Yeah.
So don't you go? You get it. You get this.
So
one.
you can watch me struggle through my notes here.
Yeah, because I've noticed that pattern, mate. Oh yeah, you have this? I don't think you know it. I don't think you know.
I found it.
Hold
I found
on,
it.
my notes
I'll
right here.
read it.
I found it.
Right? I'll read it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show where you can read us like printing shit out from IMDb. Right, so the production fell into trouble with the local council for pumping fake blood from the finale into the hot river.
Yeah.
Residents noticed that the red contamination flowing near Avalon Studios, where the film was shot, and they alerted the authorities, fearing that there'd be a massacre. Here's Nick with the news. So that's it's. I believe that happening as well. If you think about it, it's a very what are you doing? Because at the end of the day, 300 liters of fake blood. Not to mention the fact that because of the 11 weeks of shooting, they went from a really hot summer to a cold winter. So at the beginning of shooting, because it wasn't shot chronologically, they had all this fake blood and stuff, which is organic. Yeah, it's based. It's not synthetic, so it would ferment and it would smell terrible. And the problem with the smell was mainly happening during the hot days, but at night, when the season turned, the blood would actually dry on them as well. Yeah. So it was it was an awful way to awful production to be involved in.
Some situations where they're basically the fake blood was frozen on the actors. Because of the shooting. Yeah.
If I'm remembering properly, I think they used maple syrup and added food coloring to it.
Cornstarch.
So,
Cornstarch usually.
Like that syrup would get awfully thick and extremely sticky.
It would. And if you think about it, cornstarch is a natural thickening agent as well.
Yeah.
That reacts to temperature.
And then on top of that, the flesh, anytime there was flesh, it was normally pig guts or offal. So,
oh man, absolutely. But they just don't make them like this anymore, do they?
No. It reminds me of a Mark Maron line. It was just a time. It was just a time.
It was another time, you see?
It was another time.
All right, okay.
So we're at the point where... So he's talked to Paquita, and Paquita doesn't understand why he's being a weirdo. I mean, the audience knows why he's a weirdo, and Paquita should really cut her losses and go with Roger, which he does. But during this time, the priest and the nurse have had an immaculate conception of some sort.
Selwyn, my favorite character in the movie. Selwyn. He is so great. So great.
The baby. Holy shit. You know that entire sequence was shot in the I'd love to go there if I was ever there, but it's the Botanical Gardens of Wellington.
So the entire Botanical Garden scene was shot after the movie had finally wrapped because they'd saved so much money.
Yeah, because he had $1.5 million left over. Yeah.
So they shot it for a week.
I'm sorry to say, but it feels like that too. I actually said to Sal, at the end of it was the first time Sally had seen it, and Sally and I had a bit of a discussion and stuff. And I said to her, but didn't you find it so random? And she was like, I don't know, knowing Kiwi humor, it wasn't as random as I was expecting, because Kiwis, especially if you watch something like Eagle versus Shark, Kiwis and, New Zealanders and their humor.
It's a quirky sense of humor, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very random sense of humor. But for me, especially when I first watched this, all of a sudden, like, the baby's born, and so Lionel decides to take it to the park.
Left.
I mean, it did feel really random to go from the baby's born and it's come out of a radio for Lionel, because Lionel doesn't even know the baby's born, and then all of a sudden the radio kind of falls off, and then Papa and Mama are grinning at the fact that baby is, like, being so crazy. And then he takes it to the park. Like, why? Why would you do that? And then he doesn't know what to do with a baby, so he mimics, like, the mother across the way who has a baby as well. And he can't do the same things because it's a zombie baby. So
it's super Buster Keaton, dude. The entire thing.
Yeah,
he throws gravity in it. He slides down. There's just all these elements and the clothing as well. It just... You could see it again. This is a full-on homage to Buster Keaton. Like,
so in the UK, there was this program on Channel 5 when Channel 5 first started, and I think it was presented by Emily Booth, where she would gather up all the strange clips from different movies. And I swear, I saw this clip on that show, and I can't remember what it was called, but you know, they would show stuff from Frank Helnotter. So things from Frankenhooker and all of that stuff, Basket Case.
Oh, I
so
remember
I swear
this.
I swear I saw that clip on this where it's literally Lionel just taking a baby to the thing, and it can be a short film in itself, and it just feels so random. Why would Lionel choose to take the baby to a park?
Dude, it's super unique as well, because from a moral standpoint, it's a dangerous thing to play with. Because he's beating the shit. It's a long sequence, and it's extensively brutal, if you think about it. He's beating the shit. Doesn't matter that it's a demon child. It's still a child, and it's beating the shit out of a child in public. That's why you get all the, outrage reaction from everyone looking at it. It's like, oh my God, he's beating a baby. Go ahead.
It's like the first time I saw this movie, I laughed hysterically the entire time
it's fucking hilarious,
when he takes the baby to the park, because I'm not sure the motivation for why he would do that. I don't know if it's
just
because
sense. That sequence makes zero sense.
maybe he thought that he could keep the baby under control, or maybe it's a zombie baby is something that's totally, there's no instructions on what you're supposed to do. Will he stay a baby? Will he,
just like real children, no instructions.
So I don't know if he was just this is what you're supposed to do with a baby. Maybe he thought there was some way to tame the baby that he couldn't necessarily do with the adults. I'm not sure, but the movie, I would not be the same for me without that scene.
I also didn't want to leave the baby unsupervised. That's what it was, because he's trying to keep everybody alive. He realizes the danger that it's in that. So he doesn't trust them to parent the baby. So he goes, no, I'll take you away from this. It's just insane. The level of inaction that it shows.
I think it's something more based than that.
Well, what do you think it is then?
With all the adults, when you go back into the basement, with all the adults, they end up being tied up. So to tie up that baby, he probably was no matter how much I tie it up, it's probably going to wriggle out or chew its way through the ropes and just get out.
Later on, the baby is tied to the mother. After that scene at the playground, he is tied to his mother pretty much the rest of the movie. And I think it's because of how out of control he was at the playground that it was just no, there's no keeping this baby under control.
The ADR for the baby is fucking phenomenal. Just the baby's voice, it's amazing. I was watching, I was like, oh my God, this is the best part of this. Whoever did the dubbing for that, I would love to know what
And then the odd shot where they've blatantly got a toddler or a 5-year-old and just put a mache head on top of it and put it in the overalls just to run around. And not only in this scene, but in later scenes where you're sort of they just show the back of the baby and it's blatantly a real child just moving around. It's so funny.
Isn't that a sequence? I can't remember if it's in the graveyard. I don't think it is, because Uncle Lex was involved. It happens later, and we should actually work our way towards the last sequence of the party.
Yes.
Yeah? There is something similar with the gnome.
Of
you know,
no.
one point someone.
Great.
Yeah, we're gonna get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Because
We'll get
Okay.
like, it was
All right,
great.
let's just quick. Let's get there. So
Let's go.
after-
Let's go there.
Let's go. So after the park scene, he comes home and Uncle Les has discovered his little basement of what I assume Uncle Les thinks that he's a necrophiliac. That's what Uncle Les thinks.
Yeah.
And so Les is holding this over him and saying, like, I think that I need the rights to the house. And so he basically forces Lionel to give over the house, give over everything, give every little bit of Vera that was left to Les. And Les responds to this by saying, and now I'm going to have a party and you're going to cater for me. And then we have the best ending to a gore horror film that I've seen in a very long time. And I'm probably being facetious here, and I'll probably go like tomorrow, like, oh wait, no, this was a better one. But again, like, the party is the party. The party's amazing. Paquita drops Roger, and by the way, we haven't even spoken about the fact that Paquita's been with Roger, this guy that only got
he
introduced.
talks about rugby.
Oh,
he talks
God.
about
He
his
just talks
rugby.
about rugby all the time, and then I got put in the forward. And
There's actually a point as well that she leaves and he keeps talking, and then he turns around, sees that she's gone, and he goes,
yeah.
like, as in, I can do this on my own, basically. There's no stuff involved. It's
But
like, fuck you.
I love their interactions because, like, you can see her ennui for him throughout every sequence she's with him. But then, okay, we have Les's party, and Les's party is full of what you expect. Just a bunch of people having a good time, chatting, blah, 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 blah. And slowly but surely, in the pits of the house, things are going awry. But this all happens because Paquita comes in, says to Lionel, you have to say goodbye to them. They can't, you know, and she even says, I'll do it for you, especially with his mother. He's like, no, it's my mum. I'm going to do it. And so he does it. And that is what we alluded to earlier. For some reason, they can't read the bottle. And even though it says it's poisonous, it's not.
Yeah.
Not any element of what they've drove into any of the zombies is poisonous at all.
Well, one thing, like, why would you need an animal stimulant? That seems like, what is the purpose of that? Like, why would you need that in your, like, why would any animal, like, I would not want to give any animal some kind of stimulant. Like, that was always something that bothered me about the movie. Like, was like,
I feel like
who would make an animal stimulant?
It was the
feel like
50s.
What would be the purpose?
We shouldn't.
It's
we
amazing
shouldn't
what they
keep-
did to horses.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we shouldn't just keep speed for humans. We should also cultivate speed for other species around the world. It's just selfish as us, right? Yeah.
Animal stimulant. Anyway, where are we? We're at the end here.
We're at the amazing
Look, man,
end.
can I just say we'll pick one each because there's too much going on at the end. Like it would be impossible for us to cover everything. I actually realized how much is going on, and I'll praise it. I'm rating the movie. I'm rating the movie higher than I did on earlier viewings, and this is one of the reasons why. That ending is phenomenal. Like, as in, it's almost hard to keep up with it because of how many set pieces there are in it. And one of the ones that actually is my favorite is the lady that gets. She basically gets stuck to a lamp, and she keeps being featured throughout. She gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and it's fucking cool. It's a great effect. It never gets repetitive.
Before we go into the final scene, can I just read out all of my notes about the final scene? And
Go
I'll
ahead.
just
Yeah.
read them out quickly,
Go.
and then we can delve into one each, okay? All right, so it starts off with Les Party, bloat suit full of guts, death skin skull, disembodied hand up nose, leg skeleton, fist through someone's head. Mandy, it's me, Rita. Zombie light bulb, disembodied half zombie, head cut in half, intestinal zombie. Baby in a blender. Toddler in a suit for a wide of baby. Less sadistic press. Dentures on a zombie. Party over. Ash moment.
There's a lot. Those are all set pieces, and it's massive. It's massive. It's so much work.
I didn't even mention the guts monster.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's another story.
Okay, so I'm going to choose the head, the half head, because I've watched the special effects breakdown for that. And,
Which one is this?
The half head.
The half head is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So out of the, what's your favorite set piece out of this one? You can pick only one out of the final sequence.
Okay, I would say Void, like his kind of body evolution, where he's like two pieces, and then but then his guts also kind of evolve into like this own separate monster, like from the Thing, and then he somehow like reattaches part of his body. Well, one thing, Lionel's being attacked by three parts of Void. There's like Void's top half that gets shoved in the toilet, but then there's like his other half that's still bottom half that's running around, and then there's like his guts that are trying to keep him from going into the attic. And then later you've got Void somewhat trying to reattach himself. So he's probably my favorite part.
You could also say that it's his innards are quite gutsy. They are.
And like at the end when he's the kid, like it's like the lungs and part of the intestines like tries to look all cute and stuff so that Lionel doesn't kill him with the lawnmower, but then he does anyway. But it's just he
vocalizes a couple of times.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
please. It's a little bit like the original Fly.
He actually literally farts.
Please.
When we're introduced to it, it farts.
Yeah.
That's it's just ridiculous. Yeah. It's great. The last sequence, just the house burning down, basically, with the big Gerald Scarf monster that is Vera, because that's why I mentioned Scarf earlier.
And again, it's a homage to King Kong.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is indeed. On the entire rooftop sequences, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just say, my favourite bit, I've got to say two. One, my favourite bit is the running on the spot.
Oh my
running
God,
on the spot was just so stupid but so good, especially as they're like creeping in on him, and every time they cut away they're a little bit closer and stuff. But then the second one was him swinging to Paquita.
Yeah,
so
save her. And again, that's a very slapstick kind of Buster Keaton.
And yet none of us have described the onslaught of the lawnmower.
Oh yeah, but the line, it's the end of the movie as well. It's like, party's over.
Party's over. Party's over.
Party's over.
And so the Vera Uber monster comes up, and we have the most Oedipal thing I've ever seen in cinema. He re-enters the womb only to break out of the womb again.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm going to borrow a line from Bad Taste,
which is
say, "I'm born again."
That's true. Yeah. And there's a chainsaw moment in that as well, right? Where he just works his way out.
Yeah, but it's
this
not even
actually.
a chainsaw.
Sorry, wait a sec. Steve just said something, and I can categorically make the assumption that yes, this movie and Bad Taste as well talks about the relationship that Peter Jackson had with his mom. If you're reading his biography, Michelle, and there's no mentioning of it, then these movies give us some insight, for sure. For sure. Because both of them are pretty heavy-handed when it comes down to it. I think he actually did make a statement. I didn't want to double down on it, but I watched a couple of things before us recording today, and he did say that he paid homage to the relationship with his mother. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. So.
I mean, he said, like, I don't know if Steve saw this one. There was a documentary. It said behind the scenes of Braindead, and it wasn't. What it was one of those like BBC News, whatever New Zealand. Yeah, so you saw it too, Steve.
I've seen it. Yeah,
it was like a financial report. It was like, where is our money going in New Zealand, especially to the Film Commission? Well, this man, Peter Jackson, is making these stupid films, these really terrible films, and we're giving money to him. And the interviewer was so awful to Peter Jackson in every single part. It's like, so you're just making a stupid zombie film, are you? And Peter Jackson's like, well, I think that it is very New Zealandy. How is it more New Zealandy than us talking about our Maori heritage? Well, excuse me, but I'm a New Zealander. And it was just back and forth constantly. Anyway, during that, he said, like, the interviewer said, so is this like the relationship you have with your mum? And he was like, not really, but, it comes from a good place and all that stuff. So I don't know how much it is, because I don't think Peter Jackson's the sort of person to lie. And throughout that interview, he didn't lie at any point. He was just sort of like...
It just felt like he was being absolutely reamed in that interview.
Yeah, how did you think, Steve, how do you think Peter Jackson was during that interview?
He came off he was trying to put a positive spin on everything that he was trying to do. And the fact that he was like, it's based in Wellington, we're using local people, blah, 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 blah. We're using local talent for our special effects and that kind of stuff. So, and there's another documentary, which is from the same TV channel, which just goes into special effects. And it talks about the main special effects guy. He was 26 at the time.
Taylor.
Yeah, Richard Taylor.
Richard Taylor, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's 26 at the time. And he had 10 people working with him on trying to do all this practical effects. And they came in under budget on everything. And I mean, literally creating... Because New Zealand doesn't have resources. They don't have the some of the chemicals which are being used or anything like that. They quite literally came up with new ways or even old ways to produce the same effects. Even with the kid zombie, Selwyn, yeah, thank you very much. That they were producing animatronics, but producing them with basically cable ties and sticks. So, and powering through an old-fashioned motors and stuff like that. So,
look, all the innovation that they, that was applied to their early work paid off. Because once again, this was the inception of Wingnut, like we said at the beginning, and Weta. They're still working.
It's great.
And there are there's a lot of people go to them now, so they're at the forefront. So all this work has truly paid off.
They've won multiple Oscars too.
Yeah,
they've won multiple Oscars from the Lord of the Rings movies and King Kong. So
absolutely, they're pioneers in their field. That's as simple as that, really.
And not just in practical effects, but also in digital. So this is it. They've progressed from these early workings into something which is now industry standard and on par with Lucasfilm.
And Umba mentioned earlier about miniatures. For this one film, they created 650 miniature models.
And that was a lot of work. Of 10 people, 5 people working on miniatures.
Huge amount of work. Yeah. Guys, I'm going to take us right to the end, and we're going to do scores. So, I'm going to start with you, Michelle. What do you score this movie?
We usually do it out of 10, and then we also sometimes have decimal points.
Yeah, but you need to pick what. So 10 what? It's up to you.
Okay. Well, does it go to 11?
You can go whatever you want.
Take it as far as you want.
I'll just make it a Spinal Tap reference.
Yeah.
But this is a 10 out of 10 for me. Like, honestly, this is my favorite horror comedy. I mean, I just feel like this is like everything you want from a horror movie. I mean, except for it being scary. Like, I mean, it has everything that you could possibly want in a horror comedy.
Right. So it's a 10 out of 10 for you, Michelle. But 10 what?
10 nurse and priest sex scenes. Something like that. 10 out of 10 priests and sex.
And there's some priests. Okay. Sex scenes. Steve.
So I'm giving it a good 9 out of 10 disembodied heads.
Not bad. Not bad. A little generic, but not bad.
I'm being generic.
Let's go.
It's better than hungover.
Ricky.
I didn't think I would give this as high a score as I'm doing today.
Oh my god! Take it
until
easy.
I seriously every time I revisit this film, it just brings me with so much joy, and I love this 2 bits. I am going to give it 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Disgusting pus-filled custard.
Good one. Good one.
That's pretty good.
Umba?
I originally rated this movie possibly around a 7 out of 10. No, originally, because I'm a big Bad Taste fan, and this almost has never reached that point for me. However, on the last viewing, on effort alone, when it comes down to the production, and we just talked about the final sequence. Ricky, you went through the entire gamut of how many set pieces are in the last sequence. It's insane. By modern standards, that's just not. It's first of all, it's not practical. Well, it is practical, but as in practical effects, but it's a lot of work. Just I don't know. I'm speechless because it doesn't. Movies are not made that way anymore. They just are not. And even when they were made that way, it's a lot jammed into the last 20 minutes. It's insane. It's hard to keep up with. Your list alone was so extensive. How many entries have you got into that last over 20, right?
I actually missed out 3 at the end. So
how many have we got? How many are there?
So when I started saying them, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 in all.
17. And it's over 20 minutes, not even.
Oh, yeah, there's some stuff.
Insane.
It's insane. There's a lot of them. What's up, Michelle?
I have a list, too, of some of the kills, and I have when the uncle starts pulling the priest's teeth out, and when Les puts the guy with the gnome head, when he starts putting him through the meat grinder. Yep. Like those, I think those were a couple that we missed.
There's a lot. It's easy to lose count, and because it's not horror, it doesn't get you to bounce from an emotion to another. It is a horror comedy through and through, but this movie isn't scary.
No.
So you get desensitized, but it's not desensitized. You almost get numbed by what's happening because it's almost hard to follow. There's so much going on in that sequence. You're being thrown into all these different situations, and they're all equally gross. It's great. It's absolutely great. It's unmatched. It's unparalleled. So this movie gets a 9 out of 10 now. So it's going to have 2 points on my rankings, which is very, very good.
2 10s and 2 9s.
Gigantic.
That's really
9 what though? 9 what? 9 what?
9 lawnmowers. It's 9 lawnmowers. That's what.
Come on, man. Let's try that again.
It's 9 animal tranquilizers.
Yeah!
I had that first, but anyway, guys, this was amazing. I'm gonna have to edit this heavily, and I'm probably leaving this in. So whatever you are listening, dear listeners, whatever you're listening to, has been worked on extensively. In fact, originally we were going to release this on...
Yeah, let's say it got to 3 hours 25 when we were recording.
Yeah. That won't be the running time of the show. But wait, because if you keep fucking talking over it, then I'm going to have to edit this as well. So originally this show was meant to be released on the 27th of October. But you know what? Considering the fact it's a special occasion, and we put quite a bit of work, all of us, in it, and it's not over because we need to edit this as well. We'll try and make it the best we can make it, and I think it deserves a pretty good date to be released on. So we'll release it on the 31st. We'll release it on Halloween.
On Jackson's birthday.
On the Jacko's birthday. On the Jacko birthday.
Absolutely. So, absolutely.
Like, subscribe, whack that notification bell.
That note, this was Umba.
This is Michelle.
This is Steve.
This is Ricky.
Bye!
In a bit.
And I want you to know that I'm gonna miss your love.